You know what? I put it in. It was lousy, the water. It tastes funny. Yeah, I don't know. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Trent. Please turn off your cell phones or use your etiquette feature. Today's hearing is being audio and video recorded. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustments considers applications for minor variances, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to create new lots. I'm going to vet the agenda, and we're going to deal with those applications that can proceed without opposition. Those applications that are opposed, we're going to hold. We're going to ask you to step out in the hall and see if you can try and resolve your issues or some of the issues before we proceed. Everyone will be given 5 minutes to make your submissions. Because we have a lot of applications, we're going to keep you to the 5 minutes. And if we have several people in opposition, we're going to ask you to appoint a spokesperson because we don't want to hear the same points repeated. When you're making your submissions, come to the podium, hand in your decision request card. When you get to the podium, clearly state your name and address. As I said, 5 minutes for the applicants, 5 minutes for members of the opposition, subject to appointing a spokesperson. And if there's a few, we may reduce your time. We may ask questions at the end of your submissions. When all are finished, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut, and then we'll proceed into committee for decision. So if you don't agree with our decision, you may file an appeal. Appeals go to a body called the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. You can learn about them by visiting their website or the Committee of Adjustments website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of every decision. In order to receive a copy of the decision, you must fill out the decision request card and include your email address and hand it in to the Deputy Secretary or her staff on the right hand, on my right hand. Are there any declarations of interest for the afternoon list?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Oh, yes, number 28. There a conflict on number 28 as I'm acquainted with one of the neighbors in opposition.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm now going to vet the 130 list, starting at number 20. When I call the property, would the applicant please put up his hand or rise, and then I'll call for opposition, so that the neighbors can identify themselves, and perhaps if you wish, you can go outside and try and resolve the issues. We'll hold the case. Number 20, 40 Rosedale Heights Drive. Applicant, any opposition? Okay, we will proceed. Number 21, 50 PRUST Avenue. Pardon me, it's 56 PRUST Avenue. Are there any, is the applicant here? Yes. All right, any opposition? Number 22, 220 GLENDONWYNNE Road. Applicant, any opposition? You're the applicant, you're the opposition. Okay. We're going to hold that one down. If you want to go out into the lobby, let's see if you can resolve some of your issues. Number 23, 225 King Street West and 200 Wellington Street West. Applicant, any opposition? No. 24, 43 HOCKEN Avenue. Applicant, opposition? Yes. Okay. Would you step outside and see if you can resolve some of your issues? We're going to hold that one. Number 25, 319 Sunnyside Avenue. Yes. Any opposition? Okay. We'll proceed. 26, 306A Concord Avenue. Any opposition? No. 27, 159 TYRREL Avenue. Yes. Any opposition? No. Number 28, 9 CAREY Road. Any opposition?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We're going to hold that one. Perhaps you could step out. Number 29, 180 Rosemary Road. Applicant? Yes. Is there any opposition? Okay. Let us start with number 20. Number 20 is 40 Rosedale Heights. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing three-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear yard shed. We have material submitted by the applicant. We have support from Shelley McLean, 38 Rosedale Heights Drive. Yes, sir, your name?
Anthony DeSico.
Right, and you're the owner,
Yes.
right? So do we need any submissions on this application? Do we have a motion?
I'm prepared to move approval of the application. There's no conditions. I believe it's very minor.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir.
All right, thank you. That was very effective.
You made a beautiful application. Okay. So next one is 21, I keep saying that.
56.
56 PRUST Avenue. Purpose of this application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear third-story addition. We have before us materials submitted by the applicant and 7 form letters in support. Your name, sir?
Aaron Fimbo, I'm the owner.
Yes. Do we need a,
No.
I don't think we need a submission.
Mr. Chairman, unless anybody else has any questions, I'd like to move approval of the application. I think it's very straightforward and clearly meets the test for variance.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 23, 225 King Street West.
I have some handouts for you.
Okay, just let me introduce this. Purpose is to alter the Metro Center retail concourse by reconfiguring retail food court and custom workshop tenant locations seating areas and circular areas. New retail and restaurant uses will be constructed in the existing ground floor lobbies of the office buildings at 225 King Street West and 200 Wellington Street West. Tenant storage and mechanical service rooms will be constructed at the P1 level, reducing the number of parking spaces. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from transportation and real estate. And we have a staff report from community planning. Your name, sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Franchuk. I'm a planner retained by Oxford to assist them with this minor variance application. I think this one's quite, if I might say, straightforward and technical. I do have a package for you that was not submitted, which shows the existing configuration of the Metro Center areas that are to be modified, and also some renderings that show the after. I might hand those up now, if you're willing to entertain it.
Yes.
This is the existing configuration.
Thank you. We can share if you don't.
Thank you.
Photos of the existing conditions. Would have used an overhead, but it's a little bit easier I find to actually flip the paper when it comes to this much detail.
I have a question with level P1. I can't figure out where you enter it, so that impacts on circulation. I wonder if you could clarify that?
Sure, and maybe I'll just give an overview of what the application entails. The Metro Center, as all of you likely will be familiar with, is an underground concourse level adjacent to Metro Hall, which is part of the path system. It provides access through from St. Andrews Station through to other office towers as parking beneath it. Oxford owns the Metro Center and proposes to reconfigure and modernize the concourse level, as well as part of the office lobbies of the two buildings at grade, the two office buildings. So if you look at the first package that I gave you, it shows the existing underground levels and the existing configuration of the retail space. Starting with the first page, I'm on this package here, the one with the parking garage. This is the existing P1 level. And both of the variances, you'll notice, are transportation related. One of them relates to reduction in parking, slight reduction, and there's also another one related to a loading space requirement for a type A space, which is basically just a bit of a longer space. The site already has 11 loading spaces split between type B and C. The type A space is a longer space, but that's deemed not to be required for an urban location like this, which would have smaller delivery type trucks. And the main reason for the loading space variance, in fact, it was subject of some discussion if it was even required with city staff, is there's a supermarket that's now proposed. There's currently no supermarket in the concourse level. And what's really driving this variance is the fact that there's now a supermarket proposed. So as part of the supermarket, if you turn to the second page of this package with the pink areas shown on the parking garage, what's being proposed is some lowering of ceiling heights, some storage areas, and some mechanical areas that would support the revitalization of the concourse level. And so that would have the effect of removing some of the parking spaces. There's an exorbitant amount of parking on the site. It's actually subject to an old 1989 bylaw that requires between 1,400 and 1,420 spaces. It's quite a bit. The peak demand that was analyzed was somewhere in the 700s on the busiest day. So there's quite a bit of flexibility, and the reduction to by about 50 spaces in this garage will not be perceptible. So we feel that that is minor and supported. Now, just to continue flipping through the
Can I
package.
ask you a question about that?
Absolutely.
On the P1 level, the entrance into this level of parking is by virtue of this 1, 2, 3, the 4 lanes in the middle and the 4 lanes on the far right side?
Yes, these are the aisles, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Franchuk, I take it you've read the planning report and you're content with the condition that they ask us to impose?
That's correct. I'm content with the condition. Just to skip ahead, if you want to skip ahead to the nice part, and since you probably know what the site looks like now, what's proposed is actually quite exciting for such a prominent site. On the first page of the second package that I gave you, currently you'll know that the lobbies of the building they're nice, but they're a little dated. They don't have any retail presence. What's proposed is essentially a retail space with some patio areas that would be contained within the property. So it would create a nice presence along King Street and Wellington Street. It's a double-fronted site. And also provide a small additional likely coffee shop retail space, secondary retail space within each of the lobbies. And what that basically is today is, if you know the site, a circular staircase that kind of winds down. So that area would be filled in, the new retail would be proposed within that space. And if you flip to the next page over, this shows the underground concourse reconfiguration. Not to make it too complicated, but you can put them side by side and compare the current versus proposed. The big change is really the supermarket at the very top or north end. I think it's going to be a Farm Boy because it's in the rendering, so I can only imagine that's what it's going to be. But nevertheless, it's going to be some sort of supermarket. And then there's also a revitalization plan of the entire area and of the pathways to reconfigure them a little bit. And that's the reason why there's that path condition that's been proposed and Oxford fully consents to. Flipping to the last few pages, this is the fun part, the renderings. You have a rendering of the at-grade level, which will show what looks like a new restaurant on the left-hand side in the larger retail space. And up ahead, you'll see the secondary retail space being what looks like a coffee shop. And then down the escalators, these are existing escalators that would have some signage associated with what's below. So it would really enliven the space with something that is currently a little tired. Next page over shows a different perspective of that same access to the concourse. And finally, some renderings of the concourse. In this case, this is the reconfigured and revitalized food court area. This would become more akin to some of Oxford's more modern food court areas, like in Richmond Adelaide Centre, which was recently completed. And it basically is like a notch above a typical food court. Another rendering of that space. And then finally, on the last page, again, that's a rendering of a different portion of the food court. So that's the application in a nutshell. We acknowledge staff support, and we were happy to work with them to get to this point. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We also have our transportation consultant here should you have any more detailed questions about the variances themselves.
If no one has any questions from Mr. Forensic, thank you for that presentation. I am prepared to move approval of the application of the various variances. Thank you for the presentation. And subject to the staff report, the condition that planning staff wishes to impose, which you indicated you have no issue with.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 25, 319 Sunnyside Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear one-story addition and a second-story bay window on the north side. We have plans submitted by material submitted by the applicant and a staff report from planning. Your name, sir?
I'm Neil Ironside. I'm the agent for the owners and the architect. I have additional visual materials, and I'm prepared to do a full presentation if the committee wishes.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. Do we have any questions? We have a motion?
Have you seen the planning department's report?
I have. They say that the application, the building permit, should be in substantial conformance with the drawings. Substantial is a bit of a whimsical term. It will certainly be the same size and position and height and appearance.
Standard.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if no one else has any questions, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to the planning department condition. Excuse me, I think it's a rather minor application and clearly meets the test for variance.
Seconder,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you. Number 26306A Concord Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear ground floor addition and a rear second-story balcony. We have before us in this application material submitted by the applicant, a comment from Transit, and 2 form letters in support. Your name, sir?
My name's Nathan Fisher.
Yeah, I don't think we need a submission on this matter either. So, do we have any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application. Extremely minor. We have a depth variance of under a meter and about 16 square meters over and above the permitted floor space index. And I don't believe there's any, there's the TTC advisory comments, but I believe that's all there is. So I'd move approval with no conditions.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 27, 159 TYRREL Avenue. Purpose of this application to alter the one-story detached dwelling by constructing a second-story addition. We have material submitted by the applicant. We have support in the form of 13 form letters. Mr. Galbraith.
Hello, Sean Galbraith here on behalf of the applicant. I'm happy to give you a presentation if you wish.
No.
I just have a question. Sure. If I may, can you refresh my memory as to how this current application?
Is it different?
Thank you.
Easily.
Because it was refused last time. That's what I thought.
Yes. The original application, the massing was at the rear, and now it's being shifted into the center of the building.
Okay.
It was done in close consultation with all of the neighbors who previously opposed, and now everybody supports.
Including the neighbors on either side.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions, or do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application. The revision appears to be a really intelligent response to the concerns of the neighbors. I'm glad to see it. I believe that the variances that are requested are, well, the variance is minor in nature, and it clearly meets the test for variance approval.
I'm going to second it. I think the impact, if any, has been lessened significantly from the previous application, so I'm happy to second the motion for approval.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Number 29, 180 Rosemary Road. We have before us in this the purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition with a two-story canopy over the rear ground floor deck. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from planning, and 4 form letters in support.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Leo Mastandre. I'm the agent for the owners at 180 Rosemary. If you like, I can show you a few photos to show you that we are just basically filling in a small portion of the rear which will not impact any neighbors. We did speak to the surrounding neighbors. No one had any concerns, and we did submit form letters. I could show you a photo. Essentially, we're just filling in this back portion. We have
Really can't see, it's too dark. Oh, you got lights now.
Yeah, so essentially, we're just filling in this back portion, which is approximately 13 square meters per floor. And that's for variance number 1. For variance number 2 and 3, there are existing conditions. We're not going any further back from the existing dwelling. It's just how the new bylaw captured.
9 is an existing condition?
Yes, it's because it's taken from, that's the depth, which is taken from the front yard setback of 7.5 meters. I have a visual of that as well. This is the rear of the property. The blue area here is what we're filling in. And that is just a covered, the pink is the covered sunroom. The yellow is the existing dwelling. As far as the length of the building is concerned, our building starts here, but the depth is calculated from the 7.5 meter setback, and the pink is actually what we're filling in, which is approximately 26 square meters. I believe it is minor in nature. Planning had no concerns. That's the one is where the planters are, and the second one is the start of the house. So the variance number 2 and variance number 3 are existing conditions, and variance number 1 is adding an additional 26 square meters. I believe it's pretty minor in nature. Not to mention the neighbor to the south, he's at about a 10 to 12 foot elevation higher than ours, and they didn't have any concerns either.
Mr. Chairman, if no one has any further questions, and I see you have the support of the 3 neighbors directly to the rear on Richview. As you say, it's only 26 square meters. The other 2 conditions, while seem excessive, are existing, and there was an OMB decision in 1989, in 1987 rather, so I'm pleased to move approval of the application with no condition.
I second the approval. The variances initially look extremely large, but they're existing conditions, so I'm pleased to second the motion.
All in favor? Have your approval, thank you.
Thank you very much.
22.
Is that the end of the?
Yeah, 22 and then...
Okay. Number 22, 290 Glendonwynnene.
They missed, they're outside.
Okay, move on
Get
to
them?
the next one.
Oh, I gotta get out of there.
You want
They're probably outside also.
it? Number 24, 43 HOCKEN Avenue. Pardon?
They're all outside.
Outside, just a minute. Let
So why
me
don't we
try
go get
one
them?
more. 9 CAREY Road.
They're outside.
Okay, so let's get number 22 to 29 Glendonwynnene. We're dealing with number 22 first, Glendonwynnene. Is the applicant here? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Glendonwynnene.
The neighbors here? Could the
Yes.
neighbors please sit at the table at the
Come
end of
and
the
sit
worksheet?
over here on the left side.
Excuse me.
Objection? Should I start?
Just wait 1 minute. No, don't start. Let me give you the purpose first. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a third-floor addition and a rear second-story addition. We have before us materials submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from Urban Forestry, a staff report from Urban Forestry, 5 form letters in support, and correspondence of concern. Now, your name, please.
My name is Sandy Smith, and I live at 10 Overdale Road, and I'm the agent. The proposed project is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling. It will stay a single-family dwelling. The clients are merging 2 families together, and they have lived in the area for 16 years and want to stay in the neighborhood. We are seeking approval for 3 variances, proposed height of 10.5 meters versus the allowable 10, proposed eave projection, and proposed floor space index of 0.78 versus the allowable 0.6. A recent search of Committee of Adjustment proposals for third-story additions have revealed that there are other proposals that have been approved for a similar increase in floor space, similar increase in maximum height, and roof eave protection. Based upon the search and this past Committee of Adjustments approved decisions, we feel that the proposed floor space index and roof height variances reflect a scale and massing which is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws. The clients have talked to the neighbors and reviewed their intended proposal. To date, they have 5 letters of approval, which you have, and he has an additional 2 with me. This is the client here, Louis.
Would you submit those, bring those 2 letters of support up?
Yes. We have seen the letter of objection from the neighbor, the next door neighbor of 227 Glendonwynnene. The client has chatted with the neighbor, and in their discussions, the neighbor have said that they have no issue with the third-story addition in regards to the additional height nor the increase in floor space index.
Okay, could you just hang on 1 minute, Ms. Smith? Okay, so we have 2 more letters of approval from 193 Quebec Avenue and 225 Glendonwynnene. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, they are concerned that the house at 229 Glendonwynnene is no longer straight and leaning into their property. We have shown the neighbor the current survey provided in February of 2019 and the recent structural assessment of the existing house indicate that the house is neither leaning nor encroaching onto their property. If the approved new third-floor addition, it will not encroach onto their property nor cause damage to the existing house. Although this discussion of encroachment and stability is outside the mandate of the Committee of Adjustment, we wanted to address the issue and ease any concerns of the neighbor prior to the Committee of Adjustment hearing. We asked the committee to approve the project on the basis that it satisfies the 4 principles, which are the variances are minor, the development appropriate, and the purpose of the zoning bylaws and the official plan are maintained. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Neighbors?
Yeah, we've got some 10 pictures that.
Well, could you speak to us from the podium, please?
On Sunday, we had taken some drone pictures.
We have your name and your
Oh.
address.
Chris Rives, I'm the daughter of Janina at 227 Glendonwynnene Road.
Okay, so you're adjacent. Your mother lives next door.
Yes, she's 85-year-old senior. So our concern is that the house is, the second floor is leaning over onto our property line.
And you're not satisfied by the survey done by?
No.
Do you have any concerns with the planning issues, the extra half meter of height and the eave projection?
No, our concern is
Right.
if he does add a third story, it's still not correcting the problem, it's still leaning.
Right, we realize what your concern is, but that's beyond our mandate. We deal
Okay.
with planning issues only. I'm not saying your concerns are not legitimate. It certainly looks like a bit of a, from the pictures I've seen so far.
And
That's not
I've
before
got
us. You can
some.
deal with the building department. They will have to deal with the structural aspect, and they won't be able to get a building permit, so thank you. You have copies for the neighbors as well, and were this for us to share? Do you have an extra copy or just one?
She is the neighbor.
Right, I mean for the applicant. Does the applicant receive a copy of that? No. Okay, we'll share and then we can share. Okay, so like I said, this is really, we wanted to know your opinion on the variances. That's what we're normally here to deal with. See, these pictures were taken by drone, I guess?
Yes, yeah,
So
on
you
Sunday.
wanna walk us through what we're looking at, but like I said, it's really not in front of us.
Well, their eaves trough is on our roof.
Yeah, they appear to be touching. Is it a shared eaves trough for the both property, or
No,
do you have your own eaves trough?
yes.
Where is it? It only looks like one.
Underneath.
Nepville, can you see?
Ours is on the other side,
It's underneath.
the other side of the house. Eaves trough is on the right-hand side? Yeah.
Okay, again, it's, you know,
So you should take your concerns to the building department or something. That's the case. But this may be, if they're going to be altering the house, this may be an opportunity for them, because it seems clear that there's something wrong.
Yes.
So I think this is your opportunity to get that cleared up. But it's not something we can do anything about. So thank you for your concern. We will have to deal with the variances as requested.
Okay, thank you.
and I guess if the third floor is, when it's added, assuming it gets approved, there'll be a new eaves trough, I guess, above, and maybe that eaves trough is rendered redundant.
Their
Well,
house
that's
is
the
still
issue.
leaning.
You have to, the issue of the leaning house, Ms. Smith said that they have a structural report, so I don't know if she shared that with you, and if you've had your own peer review to have another structural engineer look at it, but that's probably what you should do. You have to deal with the other city departments other than us, because we deal with planning issues.
Okay, so do we have any further questions, or do we have a motion? But we don't need any rebuttal from you because she didn't raise any issues relating to the variances.
Okay.
So we're going to deal with it now.
Okay. Okay, I'm prepared to make a motion of approval. As we stated, the variances are rather minor, and it's only like four. I don't even know what you're at now, if you're at 6 times coverage or already over, but it's a rather modest build, and the other issues raised by the neighbor are sort of not before us, so I move approval with no conditions.
A seconder.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion. As my colleague indicated, we're here to deal with the planning issues. These photographs tend to indicate there is a problem. My only comment is that by virtue of getting a building permit and going through new construction, this is all going to be subject to inspection. You might wish to talk directly to the building department and your counselor, because those processes will affect the building department, and perhaps you can get remedy in that way. But I'm seconding the motion because the issue before us is whether or not these variances make sense, and I think they do, notwithstanding whether there's a problem with the top floor.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want this one and got notes on it?
Number 24.
Number 24, 43 Hocken Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear second-story addition and a rear detached garage. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, a letter from the counselor, 6 form letters in support, opposition, substantial opposition.
You have a copy for the neighbors as well? Because we can share 2 and 2, and then the neighbors should really have a copy.
So all these materials have been filed. We just didn't know if you had color copies.
Yeah,
so-
okay.
Color copies.
It's always
are
helpful to
good.
have. We have them, but
This is all.
we only have the pictures supplied by the neighbors, it looks like, so. Yeah, this is,
Can we have your name, sir?
Yes, sir. Martin Majerski. I'm the legal representative for the owner of 43 Hocken Avenue. That's last name is MazieRski.
Okay, can you tell us something about this application? I wouldn't ordinarily ask you because it seems pretty minor, but there's lots of opposition, so perhaps you can give us an idea of why there's such strong opposition.
No problem, sir. Well, first, I'll walk back the history a little bit of the proposal. So what happened is there was previously a proposal that was approved at 1.01 FSI that approved a second-story addition, similar to the one here, and a third-story addition. That was appealed to TLAB by one of the neighbors here. The neighbors wanted TLAB, and the second and third-story additions were refused. Again, that was an FSI of 1.01. At the time, the decision was a little bit vague, and I'm happy to come back to that after my friend here goes into into the neighbor's response. But there's some files and some emails that exchanged hands. It wasn't a final decision. It was treated as an interim decision. Ultimately, though, the member refused the second and third-story FSI. Again, I will come back to that later on, but the summary of it is the FSI refused at TLAB was 1.01. The FSI being requested today is 0.77. Now, a little bit more history on the file. The owners already completed a first and second story addition, neither of which required any variances. Now, I'll quickly go to explain the current proposal. So have you had a chance to review the proposal? Would you like me to explain it, or?
We've reviewed the proposal.
You reviewed it, okay. So I won't take up too much time on some of those exhibits. Basically, the second story that's being proposed right now is not going all the way back to as far as the first story is currently situated. The first story itself did not require depth variance. So the proposal does not require any depth variances, and the second story addition does not go as far back as the first story. So the second story is even shorter than the permitted depth on the property and length. In the newest plans, we've also made a small revision. You don't mind going to exhibit number 2. This was done to appease the neighbors a little bit who were worried about oversight and privacy. What we've done is we've created a smaller window in the back. Previous proposal had a walkout. It had a window that would have been easier to convert into a walkout. Neighbors were concerned about that turning into a deck, so we've created a smaller window, and if this is approved today, we're prepared to have the approval attach that rear elevation, so the south elevation drawing is to the approval, so the window has to be built like that and can't be turned into a walkout. That was, again, done to appease some of the concerns of the neighbors, of privacy at least. We've also made some changes since the original filing. We've submitted a revised site plan as per the request of planning. Planning was a little bit concerned about the soft landscaping, so we provided a new site plan. We've increased the soft landscaping to 35.48% over 34.6% in the original zoning notice, and the public notice went out to the neighbors. The soft landscaping is also higher.
Excuse me, can you go over that again, so you're amending your application?
Yes, sir.
35.48%. And what is that in meters squared?
At 35.99 meters squared. It's a slight increase. We've also added to the site plan, we've marked the walkway to the garage as permeable paver. and we've marked a location for a tree to be planted. Those two things were also requested by planning to support the application. So we're prepared to have any approval tied to the site plan, which would tie us to the permeable paver and to the tree planting.
Where's the tree?
It is on the, right there, sir.
Okay, so this isn't the site plan we have.
It's in the blue sheets.
Oh,
We received.
pardon me, okay,
So
that's why.
there's an email.
Okay, got it.
So I wanted to quickly outline the neighborhood context. If you see that, that's a Google Maps view. That's an older image though. 43 Hocken Avenue has been extended since then. A little bit in the second story, more in the first story. You see where 41 Hocken Avenue is located.
Can you just slow down?
Sure, no.
43 has been extended.
Since that aerial photo was taken, 41, you see where the line lines up at 41, and there are some properties in the neighborhood that stick out past that line, which matches more or less with 41. What you'll notice is the property right beside it, 45 Hocken Avenue, is a very short home. And you're going to see some pictures today from the neighbors explaining how we're creating this huge, in their view, this huge wall beside that property. But the reality is, whatever contrast exists there is not because of a depth variance, not because of the size of the property. It's because the property at 45 is very small. And if you situated any of the other homes in the neighborhood right there, including one of the other applicants who are the neighbors who are complaining at 41 Hocken Avenue, on the very same lot, the neighbor at 45 would be facing the same type of wall. Again, that's not a byproduct of the proposal. It's a byproduct of the fact that the home at 45 Hocken Avenue is simply a very short home. So quickly go up to next proposal. So I've provided a summary of some of the variances in the neighborhood, including on Hocken Avenue. There have been 4 FSIs approved on Hocken that are higher than the proposal here. Again, there are no variances for depth or length, but there are higher FSI variances in the neighborhood. The other streets named over there, Ainsworth is 1 street north, Helena is 1 street south, and Siena, I believe, is 2 streets south of the subject property. Again, that's on top of the variances on Hocken Avenue. In terms of, I wanted to show some quick pictures of the neighborhood. There's some properties, a couple of the properties show the FSI at the bottom. That's one of the properties we talked about, 59 Hocken Avenue. If you want to skip flipping through that, there's another FSI variance right there that's on our table, 0.85 Hocken Avenue, much larger looking homes than what we're proposing in our 2-story. Again, no depth variance. These are some other homes that I couldn't find any FSI variances for. Now, my guess is because the previous bylaw was an 86 bylaw, some of these larger homes were built before the zoning notices would have caught, the minor variances would have caught it. But there's other homes on Hocken Avenue that look much larger than what we're proposing and simply didn't get caught because they probably predated the bylaw and they're legal non-conforming. I wanted to explain that that is very much the character of that street. So quickly, just to run down the actual, that's the back of the current house. That's the addition on the 1st story and 2nd story that were done as of right. I wanted to show this picture so you could see, this is pointing north. So if you could see on the northwest, you'll see some trees planted on the other side by the owner of 45 Hocken Avenue. You're going to hear some complaints today about the shadowing impact, but you'll see the neighbor who's complaining about shadows already planted trees that will provide shadowing onto that lot. Now this is, again, the backyard of 43 Hocken Avenue, now looking northeast onto the neighbors at 41 Hocken Avenue, who will also complain about shadowing today, I'm sure. I just wanted to show they've also planted large trees on their lot that will already provide considerable shadow onto that lot. This is the rear yard of 45 Hocken Avenue, actually. That's, again, the property to the west side. You'll see on the other side of the lot, there's also trees providing further shadowing. So I'm saying whatever shadowing that lot experiences is probably coming as much from those trees that already exist there as from any house that we're building. And many of those trees, not these, for example, but the prior 2 pictures were actually planted by those neighbors. And again, last point I wanted to hit on in terms of the 4-part test, in terms of desirability. You did get some objection letters. Neighbors are going to speak. I'm going to be happy to respond to them. But we do have 6 support letters. again, I'll deal with more of the neighbors' concerns after they speak.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We have a spokesperson for the neighbors?
Good afternoon, sir, and members of the committee. I've been elected to be the spokesperson for my client. My name is David Neligan, Neligan, and I am solicitor for Gay McDonald and Rod McIver, who are the residents of 41 HOCKEN Avenue, which is the neighbor immediately to the east. I'm also speaking on behalf of Mary Crook, who is the owner of 45 HOCKEN, which is the neighbor immediately to the west. And you will have seen a letter from Ms. Crook in your file that you have before you. And I've also been advised that a neighbor to the rear, Mr. Kish, would like to take a few minutes to speak about a matter that I will not be touching whatsoever. So there'll be two speakers today. I understand that you have 12 letters of opposition in your file. We've also received another number of letters of opposition, which Ms. McDonald's handing to you today. So among the letters that you have in your file,
So if you could just hang on
Of
one
course.
minute, I just want to read these into the record. We have a letter of opposition from 11 Hocken and 35 Hocken. Thank you. Go ahead.
so in addition to the letters before, or included in the letters that you have in your file are two letters from me in my office. One dated from June 28th, 2019, in which I sought to advise the committee that this matter has been adjudicated before the TLAB. And the variances before you today are exactly the same as what was before the TLAB, which was outright refused. In that letter, I stated that my opinion that this was an abusive process. But we are here today to speak about the planning merits, so I won't be speaking much about that letter. My letter dated August 13th actually discusses my client's concerns on the planning merits before you, and that will be the focus of my
Can I
discussion.
just get you to clarify, the variances that TLAB refused are, you said, exactly the same variance?
So the variance is not exactly the same. What was refused at TLAB, and my friend stated that it was a vague decision. It was a very clear decision that any additions to the second or third story whatsoever were refused. The application before you has an addition to the second story with exactly the same dimensions that were already refused by TLAB. The rear yard soft landscaping was exactly the same as what was refused by TLAB. With the exception of the amendments that Mr. Mazurski brought to your attention just a few moments ago. I should say at the start that our clients have never been consulted by the applicant on these applications. This has been a very adverse relationship from the get-go. Mr. Clarkey once spoke to one of my colleagues and said that happy neighbors make good neighbors. The applicants before you today have not taken that advice, and that's evident by the over a dozen letters of support or opposition that you have. As this committee is very well aware, the applicant has to satisfy you that it satisfies all four tests of the Planning Act. I'm here to say that I only need to convince you of one, and in my submission, the impact of these variances is significantly major, that it should be refused on its face. And Gay, if you could put the first photo up. This is a photo from my client's rear yard. This is their deck, and you'll see in the photo on the left, that is the extension that has already been built out to the maximum permitted depth. It is overbearing and it's close enough to touch, but what it doesn't show is the second story that is about to be added to it if you approve this variance. This is a little less impactful than what Ms. Crook sees from her yard. And Gabe, you can put the next photo. This is Ms. Crook's house at 45 Hocken, and you can see what has already been constructed that completely overwhelms her house and her backyard. And if you have read her letter, you will see the impact that it has already had on her garden, where she spends considerable time, and on the heat, this natural light and heating of her first floor. Gay, could you put the second? This is a very clumsy attempt on my part to show what the addition of the second floor would do, adding salt in the wound to what's already an overwhelming condition. And Gay, can you put the next one up? Here's the existing condition of Ms. Crook standing on her deck, and the addition of a second story will completely block out her sky view.
Mr. Nelligan, do you have a picture of what she's looking at on the other side on number 39? Because I think we've seen on the Google, it extends further also. So is there a similar situation that she is facing with the neighbor on the other side?
Well,
completely boxed in.
If you can look at the...
look at the overhead. You know, as
you can see that...
pointed out, it is one of the smallest.
Well, you can see that the house to the right of 45 is, it's roughly in line, with the exception of what's a covered gazebo that extends beyond Ms. Crook's yard. So it's not an overwhelming condition whatsoever.
And is that's a pair of semis there? It looks like it's...
That's correct.
Okay. So the impact
Sorry, Ms. Cook just advised me that it's an open deck.
Okay.
The rear.
So she's not as boxed in on that side.
Correct. And you heard Mr. Mazurski say that, I mean, this is only an impact because Ms. Crook's house is short, which is true, but there's no requirement that Ms. Crook builds to the full extent of the depth. And I think that for my friends to suggest that it's not impacting her and that she should, I don't know, potentially build a larger home is unrealistic.
Can you go back to the photo of the existing condition for Ms. Cook's property? Horizontal, that's all constructed now. That's on the side, right?
That is correct. And what you see is what's already been constructed legally according to a permit. But what's interesting about this is that the permitted FSI on the site is 0.6. But these building plans for what has been already constructed show that they already have achieved 0.69 FSI.
And your drawing, you filled in the section above, which is the second story proposed addition. Second floor, yeah.
That's correct. And I mean, I took artistic license. I haven't done any significant study on this. But it's significant, and this is exactly what the T-Lab looked at when they refused this second story addition and found that the adverse impact was far too much. I want to talk a little bit, if I may, about the variance not being desirable for the appropriate use of the subject site. And Mr. Mazurski was able to point out other FSI approvals that have been allowed in the area. But this branch of the test requires that the variances before you be appropriate for the subject site, not for another site. A 0.77 FSI might be appropriate where it doesn't have a significant impact on its neighbor, but it's not appropriate in this case.
Okay.
And this is really illustrated when you look at the rear yard setback as well, so the rear yard soft landscaping. This house has been constructed so that there's really no soft landscaping anywhere. There's no front yard to speak of because there's an existing covered porch which leaves less than a meter of frontage before the street line. There's no side yards because these houses are all built so close together. The only place where you're going to find soft landscaping or permeable surfaces is in the rear yard. So a small fraction of the property is what's left that's not been covered in concrete, and this proposal seeks to reduce that even further. So on those two tests, I think that this application should fail. And honestly, it doesn't meet the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Mr. Mazurski spoke a lot about what was built as of right. And yes, you can have a two-story building as of right, but the reason that we have FSI provisions in the zoning bylaw is to regulate the size and the overdevelopment of a property. It's to make sure that properties can only be built to accommodate what they're designed to accommodate. And clearly it's our submission that this is overdevelopment.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Nelligan, just one quick question. I'm trying to understand. So Committee of Adjustment, it was approved at 1.01. They were looking, in addition to a ground floor addition in the front, a rear second story addition, a complete third story, so it would be 1.01. That was approved at committee. It then went to T-Lab. Mr. Gopi Krishna, that was the same issue. They hadn't reduced it to .77.
Correct.
It was at 1.01. It was the same application. He refused that.
He did.
So now we're here at .77, so it is a significant reduction from the 1.01. They've eliminated some of what they wanted to do.
What they
So
haven't
although
done,
I'd
sir-
agree with you with the res judicata if they were coming back, I don't think it's a problem for them to come back and ask for something significantly less than they asked for and were refused for at TLAB.
Understood. What they haven't changed, sir, is the allocation of that FSI, and
Correct.
one of the arguments that we made at the TLAB was that had they put the massing at the front of the house,
Okay.
that would have had less impact on the neighbors, and we would have had less concern with it. Even at the TLAB, we took less issue with the third-story addition than we did with the second-story addition, because it didn't go back as far
I see.
as to impact the
Skewed
backyard.
towards the front.
Well, I have no objection to the numerical FSI before you. I have an objection to the allocation of it and the massing being
Your
impacted. position
position is the .7, even though it's at .77, what triggered the refusal is still before us in this fresh application.
The only difference is that the pictures have been updated because the building has been constructed. It was plywood before, and now it's steel metal gray.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Subject to any further questions, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Kitch, who has a separate issue altogether.
That was a very helpful presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Kish, and I am a property owner at the opposite side of the laneway. I am at 52 Helena Avenue. And my concern is the reduction in the soft landscaping.
Lena.
Helena?
Okay, yeah, I know.
52 Helena Avenue. My concern basically is the reduction in the soft landscaping. It's been reduced from 50 to 34%. Now, what has happened is that on the bottom of this development and the laneway, it has extended the garage out onto the apron of the property. Previous owner had a 5.5%, 5 feet 5 inches on the apron. This now makes it 3 feet 3 inches, which is going to make it extremely difficult for me as a property owner to exit my garage. It is also going to make it extremely difficult for the property owner who buys this place to have an adequate recreational area in their backyard. This it may not seem as it is a major issue, but it is in the sense that this is a laneway that is never plowed, it is never maintained by the City of Toronto.
So his reduction of 50% to 34.6 is 15 square meters, and that, I guess, is occasioned be due to the new garage they want to build, a new rear detached garage.
Correct.
So the other objections is to the GFA and the resulting effect on the neighbor. Yours is with respect to the soft landscaping.
Correct.
But I assume, sir, that his setback from the lot line for his garages is within the bylaw,
I'm not sure that that's the case.
because he's not asking for a variance.
Well, he is not asking for a variance, but what he has done is, in the sense of not asking for a variance, he has actually made a variance in the lot line.
Yeah, no,
He's extended it over from where it previously was. And it's 5.5 inches, 5 feet 5 inches was the previous garage. Now it's going to be 3 feet 3 inches.
yeah.
And the garage is wider.
And the garage it's 425 square feet. Oh, it's much larger. The previous garage was very, very small.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So just to reiterate, the fact that the new owner is going to have just as difficult of a time exiting his garage as it is for me. So there's no consideration. Plus, this was told to me, I just found this out when I got the application here of the new garage. So there was no consultation at all for me as a property owner, and I really feel that that's inappropriate behavior by the developer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
First thing I wanted to address, panel, is we've been told that that other side of 45 HOCKEN Avenue is simply an open deck. You can see the top of that second story, below the top of that second story in the corner. That does not look like the top of a deck to me. I believe there might be a deck beside that. I believe that's what the neighbor is talking about. But that second story that you saw in the overhead is a full second story. You can see from the overhead how far that protrudes past the house, and you can see on the photo that it's a solid up to the second story. Again, I believe there might be a deck on the side or behind it, but that, what you see on the right of 45 HOCKEN Avenue is full two-story height. And it's not a product of the fact of that being a large house, it's a product of 45 being such a small house. And again, the owner of that property has every right to have a smaller house, and they're not expected to build a larger house. But the reality is, it seems unfair that all the neighbors beside that neighbor would be penalized from building a house that doesn't have a depth variance, that has a second story, that doesn't reach the full depth that's permitted by the bylaw. So that's just my quick comment about that picture and to clarify what was said there. I think between those two pictures, it's pretty clear that it's a two-story protrusion. To come back quickly to one of the small issues my friend mentioned there about what the TLAB decided on, I didn't mean to say that the decision was vague. It wasn't vague. I meant to say it was a bit complicated and we were trying to sort through it. The key to me, though, is what was refused was 1.01 and not 0.77. And to add to that, a couple times during the TLAB hearing, I tried to split the application. I tried to talk about, well, what if we just potentially try to do a second story, not a third story? I did that during my closing, and I did that after a preliminary decision was issued. And both times, I was told by the TLAB that I couldn't split the application. So it was treated, in my mind, I see it as a refusal of the second and third story and the FSI that came with those two. Another...
What do you mean by split the application? You mean revise the application downward?
Yeah, I try to talk about, well, if you're... What if we just talk? Yeah, I tried to throw it out there, and I was told that this is not the time and place to do. This is your proposal, so they dealt with the proposal.
Well, it seemed clear in the decision to me when I read it that the TLAB was refusing the second story in and of itself and the third story. They said the depth was fine, but, you know, they had concerns about the second story massing and the third story massing.
They did raise some concerns, but
That's how I
yeah.
read the TLAB decision when I went through it. To me, the member said it was the second story addition and the third story addition.
There was there was, but like I said, I tried to separate them multiple times, and I couldn't split them. There's something in the decision, I believe it's page 17, I can't remember the exact, I don't have the paragraph, when it was described as the variance as a whole was problematic. A couple other things that came up today.
I'm confused.
Sure.
What do you point, the point's lost on me. It seems that TLAB spoke negatively about the second-story addition and the three-story addition. I think that's really clear.
And
what are you, I asked previously because the other solicitor indicated that the same issue was turned down by TLAB, and he clarified that it wasn't exactly the numbers, but it was the objective of the second and third-story addition. What point are you trying to make?
I said that I try to have TLAB deal with one story at a time.
But you didn't.
But I couldn't. So what I'm saying is, in the end, I could never split the decision. So ultimately, when I look at the decision looked at the second story and the third story, but ultimately it was a decision on a 1.01 FSI that talked about both additions because I couldn't split them for all my efforts during the hearing and after hearing to split them and having dealt with individually. So that was my point. I hope that clarifies a little bit. And one other thing about the shadow issue. The decks, all those rear yards, 41, 43, 45, not perhaps perfectly south-facing, but those are more, for the most part, south-facing yards. So for all the shadow concerns, for all the complaints about that, all those are south-facing yards. A small thing about, another comment from my friend here about the soft landscaping and there not being enough soft landscaping in the area, in the neighborhood. I would have taken that as perhaps a more serious point, a concern that the neighbors truly felt was important to them. But at the same time, if you look at the property at 45 HOCKEN Avenue,
that's entirely paved over at the front of the yard. So if the neighbors were that particularly concerned of soft versus hard landscaping, perhaps one of the two main complaining neighbors wouldn't have a paved over front yard. And importantly, planning did look at this. Planning did have some concerns about the soft landscaping, but they've added conditions. They've asked us to tie the approval to a site plan. And I felt that those conditions were approved, and the only planner looking at the current application was city planning, and they didn't have issues. And again, it is a very slight reduction from the soft landscaping variance at TLAB. And by that I mean it's a slightly higher soft landscaping percentage.
Would you like to comment on the gentleman's point about the location of the garage?
Yes, I thought the panel already hit the main point on that. The variance is for soft landscaping, and if the panel wants to address that, I'm happy to address it. There's no variances for setback of that garage. There's no concerns. Whatever concerns might be there, there's bylaws to deal with those things, and there's no variances that came up with respect to that setback at the back. So the garage did shift, but I think this is one of those instances where, and I can understand where neighbors are coming from. Neighbors are comparing to what's there right now and what's being built, and they prefer what's there right now, and I understand that. But the difference that they're complaining about is not tied to the variance. The variance is for soft landscaping, but it's not a setback variance that's triggered.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, there will be a motion.
I think I'm prepared to make a motion, and I think it's, first of all, I think that the res judicata, the issue that this application was already heard, it went to TLAB. TLAB left open the issue, and then it sort of wasn't complied with. It says the decision respecting the variance regarding FSI is therefore deferred. It may be reiterated that FI will be greater than the existing of 0.68 as a result of approving the depth variance, but will be less than the proposed 1.01. Due to refusing the additional massing on the second and third floors. I think that's the very relevant part of it. And when you go back into the decision, he says, a decision on the variance below is deferred, which needs to be revised to reflect the approval of variances 2 and 4 above, if pertinent. The new FSI number would also have to reflect the refusal of the placement of additional massing on the second and third floors. So although I stated earlier, okay, it's not the same application, it was at 1.1, now we're at 0.77. However, having said that, I think we are bound by the TLAB members couching this in the fact that, okay, you can come in for more than 0.69 or more than 0.6, I guess, I don't know where we get to the 0.69, that's a separate issue, but it has to reflect the fact that the TLAB member refused additional massing due to the impact on the neighbor on the second and third floors. So I think to that extent, even though numbers are different, we are sort of maybe not exactly bound. We're not a court of law. We're not specifically bound by that. But having said that, and this is not like it's 5 years ago, it's pretty recent, I would add, I would take that into consideration, and I think that has great credence. And for that reason, I think that if you came with something that was different, but the member clearly said that the second and third floor, due to the impact on the neighbor, was what could not happen here. And even though you're 0.77, you have reintroduced the second floor. We've seen how that is very impactful on the neighbor at 45, and maybe it's because her house is small, but she doesn't have to make her house bigger should she not wish to do so. So that's the quandary we're at, and I think my motion would be then to refuse the application for those reasons.
No, you go ahead.
I'm seconding the motion for exactly the same reasons. I completely agree with my colleague. I think TLAB did in fact deal with this issue previously. This is now the third time. I think the evidence that was presented is overwhelmingly negative, as opposed to a more respectful response to a unique situation. So I'm going to support the motion for refusal.
I will be supporting the motion as well. I think that what the applicant got as of right is overwhelming enough. I don't think we should be adding to it by giving him a variance to add more FSI or more height or more depth or anything of that sort. And I think it was extremely inappropriate for him to blame Mrs., I think it's Mrs. Crux, because she has a small house. That house was there first. It's your job when you're building something to fit within the context of the neighborhood. You've done what you could within the existing bylaws, and to me, that's disruptive enough of the context of the neighborhood. So I will be supporting the motion to refuse the application. All in favor?
Thank you, panel.
Application is refused.
I get to go.
Okay, so we have 28. Number 28, 9 Carey Road.
I will be leaving.
Yes. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition with a basement walkout, a ground floor deck, and a second-story balcony, a front second-story balcony, a third-story addition with a front dormer and rear balcony, and a rear detached garage. The existing front porch will be reconstructed. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from transportation, support from 6, 5, 7, 10, and 26 CAREY. We have concern from 8 CAREY. We have opposition from a number of other people on CAREY. Are you the entire opposition? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ali Malikzadeh, and I'm architect and applicant for the application on behalf of the owner. Thank you for the brief. Just want to go over our proposal. Unfortunately, the notice of hearing is not clear for what we're proposing based on the existing and on what is new. And that makes some confusion for the neighbors, especially neighbor on the east, number 7 CAREY Road. So we had a chance to talk to our neighbor, trying to explain, and I just want to go over some of the variances. So
are you referring to existing conditions that
yes,
make the application confusing?
yes.
Okay, so please
So,
go through
yeah, the
each
notice-
variance and tell us what's existing.
So the zoning notice was very clearly talking about what is existing and then variances that is related to the existing condition, but they are not reflected to the hearing notice. So number one, which talking about the side yard setback, this is the existing condition on
Both
the
of them?
side.
Both of them, sir?
Both of them, yes.
Okay.
And then number two also is a existing condition because the balcony was created by the existing wall, and the side yard setback for the balcony is not complying because of the existing. And then also number 7 is also exist because we're keeping the existing both side wall on the east and then west, and then the eaves is not complying, even existing eaves not complying with the bylaw. So from 7 variants, number 1, 2, and 7 is the existing condition.
So the balcony, it's not currently a balcony, it's just the.
It's not a currently balcony.
The wall of the balcony is going to extend out to where the existing wall is.
On the side, on the
That's misleading,
yes.
'cause I thought you were saying there was an existing balcony.
No, it's not the existing balcony, but just the setback of the balcony. But that wall is a setback of the balcony, is the existing wall. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So regarding to the height variance, I just gonna go over I have the site plan on the screen. So the gray area is going to be a proposed building. So the yellow area at the front and the back, the front is the existing that we demolishing, and we pushing and recess the front wall back. And we're creating more green space at the front. What we're keeping is both east and west side wall existing. And at the back, I'm showing that yellow area again is a 2-story rear addition to the existing building. So these are just a reference point I would like to use to show what we are proposing, and then based on that reference, we were talking to the neighbors, so that's why I'm using as a reference for them. So the rear setback, rear addition that we are doing is the area that I'm showing, that area at the back, if you can show. That's a 1-story addition. Just the first story is going back almost 15 feet back. And then the second floor is set back, which is almost to the location of the existing second floor, which is almost 3 foot 8 inches back from the first floor. And then third floor is completely set back, which is going to be that purple area. And I mentioned that second floor and then third floor. So I just want to be clear that the addition to the back is not completely 3-story, so it's just gonna step back. And then that was a confusion for our neighbor, that they were thinking that 15 feet we are adding and then it's going all the way up. We are not asking for any variance for the building length. This is comply. And also for the side yard setback, as I mentioned, the number 1 is only item number 1 is a existing scenario. The addition and the new addition is comply with the bylaw. Actually, we can have 45 centimeters setback, 0.45, but we push our building back in order to clear the distance with our neighbors on the east, that they have some window which is close to the property line, and we just wanted to have the clearance for the fire issue and then give them some more room. Again, these was explained. These is not variances at all. So this is for the site plan. Again, you see there was an existing garage at the backyard. We're demolishing that. We put in the new garage. There was a concern with the transportation. We have our transportation engineer to look at to the diagram and then maneuvering diagram of the car that was provided, and they are satisfied with that. Also, our south side neighbor, he's here, and we make sure that he understands that what we're proposing. So we have the maneuvering point. So with all of this, we also adding the more green space to the backyard. I know that we are coming back, but we are not actually again asking for any variance on the landscape ratio. We work very closely with the city planner, a committee of adjustment planner, and a zoning examiner to make sure that we are complying with the bylaw in many areas. We had some revision back and forth with them, and then reduced the number of the variance. So we are allowed to have 3-story as part of the zone R, and in this area, which is most of the Toronto area, they are 10 meters maximum height. This one, unfortunately, is 9, and we are asking for a 0.6 on the height at the peak of the roof. This elevation is also illustrate the existing 2-story house versus what we proposing. So the front of the house is recessed, and so you can see the height and the mass of the existing house, and then how we are going to push back and then step back at the front and at the back at the both sides. There is, in terms of the GFA, there is number of application already. They got approval from this committee before with a higher number, and with the consultation we had with the city planner, they find that the 0.77 is something that is lined with what this committee approved in the area. For the actual look of the building, the mass of the building, what we're proposing that is in line with the character of the neighborhood. If you can just show some of
Sir, could you wrap up, sir?
I'm just wrapping up. Just across the street.
Pictures?
Sorry about that. Just this one is, if you can zoom it back. This one is illustrate the location and then how our proposed house sitting on that streetscape, and comparing with the neighbors on both sides. So number 11 and then 13, they are existing house. Number 15, as you see, if you can just push it to show number 15. So number 15, again, this is already exists. We have the picture. So they are higher, bigger, and I don't think they have any even related character with what we exist. We trying to be very fit in the neighborhood and the streetscape, and then this elevation is illustrate that what is the maximum height. That dotted line is 9 meters that we can have, which we are 9.6, and then the number 15 that is higher. And then also the cross street, the existing neighborhood, they are all 3-story. If you can show that picture. And then they are all over 9 meter high, which they are probably built 30, 40 years ago. And then as you see, the peak of all these roof, they are all more than 9 meters, and then they are 3-story. These are his number 6, B, 8, 10, 12, Carey Road, which is the cross street.
Thank you, sir. We can hear from the neighbor now. Could you come forward to the podium, please?
So we went out and he explained a lot to me. I mean, I find...
Just a minute, could you tell us your name?
Oh, sorry, my name is Jean Parker. I'm at 11 CAREY Road. I'm the neighbour to the east.
Yes.
So mine is that tiny little house beside him, which will be completely locked in if he's allowed, and then my neighbour to that side is allowed. I will be living in a little box. I'm concerned, and he explained to me that I would not be looking at a brick wall. I'm very concerned. My deck at the back, I'll be sitting there and I'll be looking at this 3-story brick wall set very close to my house, but he now tells me that there was an error in the setback. So in fact it is existing. So this is what he apparently, number 1, where it says,
What side are you on, the east side?
yeah, I'm on the east side, where it says 0.33 meters from the east side lot. He says it's existing, which I did not realize.
Okay.
So he,
Do you understand what existing means?
yes, so that means, I mean, there's
He's not
basically nothing
making
I
any
can do about
changes.
that.
He's not making any changes with the
Right,
setback.
Right.
Maybe increasing the height of his.
he's increasing the height, but he's also, he's not making any changes. According to this, he was. But apparently it's existing, so he's not. I now understand that. He explained that to me. I find this very complicated. I'm more concerned about the height. I'm more concerned about a balcony stuck in the front of the house. I mean, it doesn't fit in with the character of the street at all. 2 balconies at the back of the house. He says he's adding more green space. I don't know how, when the garage will be larger, so how is he adding more green space at the back? I know in the front he is. How is he adding more green space at the back?
So, do you have a deck off the back of your house?
I do.
There is a deck, okay. Looking on that drawing, and it looks like someone's penciled a deck in. That's your deck?
That's me.
It's like at grade, right? The
Yeah.
deck, yes. But the length of your dwelling stops to give, where the 3rd story of the proposal would be. That's the depth of your dwelling. Pardon me?
The second story of our proposed house is going to be lined up with their second story. So this is our second story.
Right, but that's the deck, isn't it?
No. This is their second story as well. The deck is here.
They have an addition on the second story.
They have second.
That's not clear in your site plan. Let me have a look at that.
That's not
That doesn't look like that.
That's not an addition, because all our houses end exactly at the same spot. All 3 houses.
Am I looking at the wrong?
11, 13, and...
I'll show you a picture of it.
So this is the.
That's the back of my house.
The wall you see is an existing wall, and what you can see is his 1st floor and 2nd floor addition at the back.
So if I showed you on
That's on it.
the survey, we know that they didn't show, but that's the that was a picture, and then that's the this. I don't have the survey with me right now.
But it was a recent survey, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you're telling me the survey and the site plan show?
Yeah, that's the way I show it here. So that's the second floor of your house, this line, which is going to be flush with our second floor proposal.
It's the end of the house. Isn't that the 3rd story? This is the 2nd story, and that's the 1st story? I don't see that.
Well, it's not on this one.
Okay,
The
I
applicant,
just.
can you put
I'm
your
confused.
survey, your A01 drawing up?
Yep, it's up right now.
This is
Okay, now, what is this? You just drew that in, that's not on our drawing, so what is
Yeah,
that?
that's why I'm completely blown away by what
What's
that is.
this?
That's a deck, and then behind that is going to be this is their second floor addition. First and second floor addition behind this.
Here,
Yes,
Yes.
existing.
Yes.
existing.
Does that agree with you? That's your property.
You can ask her.
I'm trying to picture that. All I know is all our three houses line up at the back. So I don't know how he's saying that it comes up to there.
We have a second-story existing addition, as you can see the
Yeah.
yellow part.
On the yellow part.
Yeah, that yellow part,
And then that's lined up with their second floor.
This line, that's what,
yeah,
you're saying that's your existing, and then it would line up.
exactly.
Yes, yes.
No, but I'm saying that the neighbor doesn't have a two-story addition.
They do.
two-story.
And it lines up with our existing addition.
As pictured that.
It's not shown on any of these plans.
Yeah, we don't know why, yeah. But you can ask her as well. They do line up with our second-story existing.
They line
addition.
up. All our houses line up at the back. Where his little deck is, I have a little room, and on top of that, he's got a little room out there as well.
What is this piece here? Is that an addition? The gray color, you mean?
Yeah.
The gray is an addition only on the first floor. That's what we proposing.
Exactly.
Yes, and then second floor is set back to the existing second floor, and then third floor is completely back to the purple line.
One.
Yeah.
Two.
That's a two-story.
Yes.
Both 2 stories.
Yes.
She has a deck out here.
No, I have a deck on the ground floor.
Wider.
So her deck is going to be on this 1-story addition.
Just for 3 foot and 8 inches.
No, her deck is going to be opposite the two-story addition.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And everything in yellow are things you're taking down. Existing addition,
Yes,
front
yes.
porch, and the back two-story addition that's set back from that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just put this. So on this one here, you can see exactly the side elevation. That's exactly on the east side elevation. So you can see the purple line is the existing building. And so locating the 2-story addition at the back on our side, which is lined up with the 2-story addition on the back on number 11.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Anybody have any further questions? Can we make a motion?
You okay, Lisa? Mr. Chairman, notwithstanding requested variance number 3 not being a large, relatively large variance request of 0.63 meters, my problem with this application is the height of the new building. I do believe it's out of keeping with the context of the street. As your own drawings indicated, there is one taller building, and there are taller buildings across the street. But there's a row of rather consistent, quite handsome two-story pitched roof buildings on this side of the street. This lady lives in one of them. And I find that the pop-up on your building, which is accommodating them, the new master and ensuite, I find that it's too large, in my view, too large for the street. It's out of keeping with the character of the street. I have been sitting here trying to figure out if there was a way of supporting the application and identifying that as the concern, but by not approving one variance, I wouldn't be helping you because it would invalidate the entire application. So on that basis, because of concerns of height, I'm unable to support this, and I'm recommending, or I'm moving, that the application be rejected.
I'm going to, I'm seconding it.
All right, all in favor? Your application's refused, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I'll get him.
Oh, sorry. I'm up.
That completes the 130 list. I'm now going to vet the 230 list. And since it's 3:30, I'm going to vet the 3:30 list too. Okay, so when I call the number and the address, will the applicant indicate they're here? And then I'm going to ask for neighbors or opposition. You can indicate that you're here. Number 30, 423 Concord Avenue.
I am here for the owner.
Okay, is there any opposition to this application? Okay, number 31, 209 Montrose Avenue. The applicant, any opposition to this matter? No. 32, 224 Wychwood Avenue. Yes, any opposition? 33, 32 FERRIER Avenue. Yes, any opposition to this matter? 34, 132 Harvard Street. Yes, any opposition to this matter?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hold that one down. Perhaps you can go out and try and resolve the issue. 35, 300 Roxton Road. Any opposition to this matter? 36, 198 Forest Hill Road.
Over here.
Okay, any opposition? 37, 211 Bane Avenue. Applicant, any opposition?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hold that one down. Perhaps you could take it outside. So on the 230 list, there's two in opposition, two that are opposed, 132 Harvard and 211 Bane. I got that correct? Okay. Number, the 330 list, 38, 46 Kennedy Park Road. Any opposition? 39, 266 Kenilworth Avenue. Applicant, yes. Any opposition? No. Okay. Number 40, 43 Westview Boulevard. Right. Any opposition? 41A, B, and C. Are you opposition in that one? Yes? Yes. Okay.
Is that Westview?
Westview. Yeah, okay. You want to go outside and try and settle the issue? Can. 41A, B, and C, 252 Monarch Park Avenue. All right. You're both applicants? All right, your opposition? All right, we're going to hold that one down, and you can go outside and try and settle the issue. 42, 355 King Street West. Yes, any opposition? 43 ABC, 714 Annette Street. And you're the applicant? Any opposition? No. Okay. 44, 19 Eastbourne Avenue. Applicant? I'm blind. Applicant on Eastbourne? Well, it's just 25 to 3. It's a long way from here. Okay, we'll go back.
Just see if there's any opposition.
Yeah, is there any opposition to Eastbourne? Okay, let's go back to number 30. (423) Concord Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition, a rear 3rd-story addition and deck, and rear detached garage. The existing front porch will be reconstructed. We have on this application material supplied by the applicant and correspondence in support from 421 Concord. Your name, please.
My name is Wanda Ely, and I am the architect working for the owner of 423 Concord Avenue.
Okay. Doesn't look like we need a
Presentation,
presentation on this. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application without condition. This is very minor and clearly meets the 4 tests for variance.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 31, 209 Montrose Avenue.
I'm Julia Burke. I'm the agent for the owner.
Julia, could you just hang on for a minute? The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached house by constructing a south side 3rd-story dormer addition. We just have material supplied by the applicant. Okay, Julia. I hate to disappoint you, but it doesn't look like we need a presentation on this one. Does anybody have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, it appears very minor, just adding a dormer, and the variances are minor. I have no comments from city staff or neighbors, so I move approval with no conditions.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Great.
You have your approval. Thank you for your presentation. Number 32. 224 Wychwood Avenue. Purpose of this application is to construct a rear detached 2-car garage. We have before us material submitted by the applicant and staff reports from planning and urban forestry. Your name, sir?
Mario Silva, I'm the agent.
Okay. Do we need a presentation on this one?
Just have a question. You've seen the condition with respect to permeable pavers, and your client is
Yes, I
okay
have.
with that? And you're aware that their urban forestry is requesting conditions?
Yes, we'll comply with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silva. On that basis, I'll move approval of the application subject to urban forestry condition number 2 and the planning condition on permeable pavers.
Second the motion.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Number 33, 32 Ferrier Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2nd-story addition above the existing ground floor addition. And we have material supplied by the applicant and email from TTC.
Yeah.
Okay, and your name, please?
My name's Carol Nguyen. I'm the authorized agent for 32 FERRIER.
Okay. Doesn't look like we need a presentation on this one either. Does anyone have any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application. It's extremely minor in order to construct a 2nd-story addition over an existing building and clearly meets the 4 tests.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 35, 300 Roxton Road. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story townhouse by enclosing the rear 2nd-story balcony and converting it into interior living space. We have before us material submitted by the applicant and correspondence in support from 2 people on Roxton Road. Your name, please.
Mariela de Felix, I'm the owner and the agent. She's under another name.
Okay, Mr. Chair, this looks extremely minor. They're just enclosing the rear second-story balcony and converted to interior living space, and we have support from both adjacent neighbors. So I'm happy to move approval of the application with no conditions.
Thank you.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Number 36, 108 Forest Hill Road. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached house by constructing a rear second-story addition and a rear two-story addition. We have before us material submitted by the applicant and support from 106 Forest Hill Road.
196.
196.
196. It's my glasses. Can't read. Thank you. Your name, sir?
My name is Thomas Marzada. I'm the agent for the owners at 198.
Do we need a presentation?
I don't think so.
Looks relatively minor, sir.
Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application. It is relatively minor. It's for a rear second-story addition, which I think is in keeping with the neighborhood. And I think that the variances requested are reasonable and in the public interest.
Seconder? All in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Pardon?
Yeah, we're holding it because it's a held item. We do first the uncontested matters.
Because there's opposition.
Is he the applicant or?
Are you the applicant? Yeah. Because I think, are they meeting out the hall? Are they meeting outside? Yes, I believe so. We'll be with you soon. We're doing the 3:30.
211 Bane?
That's a held item.
No, I know that. I just wanted to see if they...
Oh, right, they weren't here.
All right.
Oh, no, they were here. It was the 44 that wasn't here. It was 44.
It's the very last one.
44, you're the applicant, 19 Eastbourne? Yeah, we're doing
We
it
are,
together.
but we vetted the list, so you're here, there's no opposition, so we're going to hear you in order.
Okay.
That's the good news. The bad news, you're last anyhow. But we'll hear you before the contested matters. Number 38, 46 Kennedy Park Road. Purpose of this application is to alter the plans for a third floor addition to the detached dwelling approved by virtue of minor variance decision AO 54218EYK by increasing the amount of attic space that will be used as living space. Your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Angus Skeen. I'm the architect and agent for the application.
I
Mr.
don't
Chair,
think we need a presentation, so
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move approval. It looks like they have a previous decision to permit part of the attic space to be used. They're asking for an additional 15 square meters in the attic. There's no impact on everyone, extremely minor. So move approval, no conditions.
Second. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Pardon?
We can,
You can try the other side. Number 39, 266 Kenilworth Avenue. Purpose of this application is to enclose a front one-story porch on the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling. We have material submitted by the applicant and opposition from 305 and 272 Kenilworth. Your name, sir?
My name is Joel Gerber. I'm the architect and agent for the project.
Okay, so
Let me ask the elephant in the room. We understand there's an illegal secondary suite. Would you speak to that?
The rear parking space has a mobile
facility with wheels and temporary hookups on it. That's correct. In the last 4 or 5 years, there's been three or four bylaw staff stop by and close the case on that.
What do you mean they closed the case on that?
They didn't pursue further action.
So what's a mobile unit?
Yeah.
Is it RV or is it a structure that has wheels on it?
It's a temporary structure with wheels. It's a little bit of both.
According to the neighbor, if structure was constructed at the rear without any permits, it is full plumbing, bathroom, kitchen, electricity. They have a tenant living there. And this is what's more serious to me. The structure is not indicated on the architectural plans. It says it's a parking space. So when you come here and your plans are not accurate, I have personally a problem with that.
Understood.
I'm not blaming you, but I'm just saying your plans don't show that.
May I speak on the applicant?
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes, come forward. I assume, Mr. Gerber, she has more knowledge than you.
Yeah.
We put this, it's a trailer, there's no motor on it. I spoke to the city zoning about having the trailer in our backyard on a designated spot. So it's our private property, there's no motor, there's nothing going on in there, it is just a home with a trailer hitch and wheels.
So it's like a camper or something?
Yes.
You could take, okay, so it has electricity, has a bathroom. Maybe it doesn't have a sewer, but it has a bathroom.
It's not hooked up.
It's not hooked up.
No, we bought it secondhand.
Are there people living in there?
No. We bought it secondhand, we backed it into our yard.
Yeah. Okay.
We put a fence up, a permanent fence, because we didn't want it to be stolen, because I've heard lots of stories like that, so.
So your
Police
neighbors
service.
say
It has
rent
electricity.
it out for thousands of dollars every night.
Wow, that would be awesome.
I know.
But that's not true.
So it's portable, it's not
Correct.
in place, it just,
No.
it is on wheels?
It is on wheels.
And-
There are bricks behind the wheels to keep it from rolling.
Okay. But there's
That's
no
how
one
mobile
living
it
in there?
is. And we have had 4 inspectors come by in the last 3 years due to complaints from neighbors. And they have taken a picture of the wheels, they have taken a picture of the underside of it as well, and concluded that there are no infractions, and they have left. Then we got a call from the city municipal licensing this week asking us the same thing, which we also answered, and they have gone on their way.
Okay.
And that's why we're asking you to, because we
Exactly.
have letters.
Yeah, even though it's not related to the variance you're asking for, it was to enclose your front porch, I'm still concerned, but I guess it doesn't show on your plans because it's portable.
It is
Wheels on
exactly
it, it's not
portable.
there, it's not a permanent structure.
It could easily be moved.
So on that basis, it's not inappropriate that it doesn't show on your plan because it's on wheels.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, just a minute. Could you, for the record, just give us your name and I know you're the owner, just give us your name.
I'm Tanya Rosenberg.
Okay, and you live at
266 Kenilworth.
Kenilworth Avenue.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, having said that, I therefore the issue was unrelated then to the application before us, and it's appropriate that it doesn't show on the plans because it's not a permanent structure, so I would move approval of the application with no conditions.
I'm going to second it.
All in favor? You have your approval.
Thank you for your time.
That's, yeah. Number 42, 355 King Street West.
Yeah.
Purpose of this application is to obtain consent to sever the property into 4 lots and to create various easements and rights of way. We have before us material submitted by the applicant and a staff report from engineering and Heritage Preservation Services. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kim Cover. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. This is another one of these stratified severance applications. What I did, just for your assistance, is I just colored up. This is what the severance would look like at the ground floor, but of course it's different on every floor. The goal is to subdivide the site into 4 separate parcels. There's a residential future condominium parcel. There is a retail parcel. The retail parcels are shown here in Orange, this is King Street and Blue Jays Way running down here. Sorry, Blue Jays Way running down here. The retail pieces are shown in orange. The yellow is the ground floor of what is going to be a theater museum. And the white is all the hotel component of the building on the ground floor. It carries on throughout the building, and the application also includes various cross easements. Ultimately, there'll be a condominium registered on the residential component of the project for the 44 and 48-story condo towers going up, but the balance of it will be subdivided. And the theater museum itself requires a severance because it's going to be subject to a 99-year lease, which is an obligation my client currently has in accordance with the Section 37 agreement entered into when the zoning was adopted.
Does the residential parcel then get subdivided further? Because my only question was the 2.19 meter frontage on Blue Jays Way, which is presumably a further severance of that, not legally, but they're being further severed? How do you get 2.19 meters frontage on Blue Jays Way? It's on the conveyed parts.
Yeah, you know what that's going to be? That is actually this little sliver of land. I'm so sorry. That is that little sliver of land here. So I guess that is the technical frontage on
For this whole block.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
There are two towers going up. One is generally here and the other is generally
Okay.
here.
Thank you.
Nice coloring job, by the way. See?
Her daughter.
You learned something in kindergarten that's relevant.
Sticks with you.
Okay, do we have any further questions?
I would say the standard conditions of approval, which are normally attached, as of this morning, they weren't on the file. I don't know whether you've got them since.
No.
No, we haven't. Oh.
I thought it was odd. I didn't really know why you didn't get them, because normally they would come from development engineering. The other stratified severances I've done, I've always got those. If it helps.
We assumed we were going to add them anyway.
Okay, then that's fine. I'm fine with that. I actually took another Committee of Adjustment approval of a stratified severance and typed up the conditions if you wanted them. If they didn't, it's funny to me that normally they come from engineering.
So maybe you just hand them up and we'll have.
They just said it was okay to schedule.
Yeah, and then they never did anything else, which is odd.
Standard conditions as well. Yeah.
These are just from another severance that the committee had approved.
So make sure that
Last
the
year,
deputy
yeah.
secretary.
They're not standard ones, but so that's what these are going to be anyway.
We can share.
Yeah,
Thanks.
these are our standards that we all
Yeah.
impose ourselves.
Yeah, I've just never appeared here when there wasn't a set of conditions, so, yeah.
They don't get posted, they're just our standard that we.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect.
Engineering would put their own special ones.
I see.
And
Okay.
are you aware of the heritage report? You've
It wasn't there this morning, but
read that too? Here.
there is a heritage easement agreement on title, so I'm presuming it's.
Well, it's a pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, just municipal numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
That,
it just,
I'm fine with that condition. I mean,
Okay.
in due course, we will have to obtain municipal numbers for the various retail
you're
shops.
you're right, development engineer just said on the basis of the information, we have no objection to scheduling of the application.
And that's the only memo from them on the file.
Yeah.
Which was a bit odd, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, unless anyone has any questions, I'd like to move approval of the application, subject to the standard approval conditions that we have before us and the heritage services condition that I've just given to the applicant.
I have a seconder.
I'll second that.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's 42. 40, number 43, 714 Annette Street. The purpose of this application is to
Good
obtain
afternoon.
consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots and create an easement right-of-way. We have before us the material submitted by the applicant and a staff report from engineering. Your name, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Neha Kulkarni. I'm the agent of the owner for 714 Annette Street. So we are here seeking minor variances and a consent for severing the lot and the existing house into 2 different dwelling units and severing the lot into 3 other parts. So part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. So as seen on the draft, our plan, part 5 and 6 are existing easements to access the properties at 714 currently and 716 in it. So part 3 would be a right-of-way in favor of part 2 and part 4 to access part 1 and the parking garage. And in terms of minor variances, the minor variance is that this semi-detached dwelling is not a permitted use currently in the zoning, but through research, I understand that 716 Annette has already been is already a semi-detached dwelling. So they did like a severance at some point. Yeah, there are 2 addresses basically on Google. So
Right, so there's no construction proposed, you're just taking
nothing. We just
2 houses on a lot, they're semis, you're splitting it so that each one has its own lot. We see that
That's correct.
here often.
Yeah.
And you're saying right next door, they did the same thing.
Yeah.
Built as a semi, was it not? I mean, it looks like a semi, it's got 2 front doors, it looks like 2 houses.
Yeah, but we just want to like legally have it as a semi-detached dwelling now.
But you just have one ownership at this point.
We have, yeah.
Okay, this is more or less a technical.
It's there's the standard conditions. Mr. Chair, if there's no further questions, I'm prepared to move approval of the consent and the related variance applications, just to clarify that semi-detached is not a permitted use, and the semi-detached is not a permitted building type. There's no construction, subject to the standard engineering conditions. This is the memo dated.
May 30th? Did you see the engineering memo?
Yeah, so we don't have a certificate. No, we don't have an issue because there are already separate services for both the units. So, yeah.
So you're prepared to comply with these conditions?
Yeah.
I think those are the only conditions before us? Yes.
Conditions, but one's a repeat of our standards, so it's really 7 conditions.
Okay. Okay. So I would move approval on that basis.
Seconder?
I didn't understand what you just said. What I'm looking at is, I think what Michael was referring to, and Lisa was, there's 3 conditions, not.
But then we have this.
In the standard, yeah.
According to municipal numbering, if I'm looking at the same thing as you are, is our municipal numbering is one of our standard conditions.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like a repeat, so it's really.
And it says 1 or 2 and 3, so we're at 2 and 3, and then we have the other 5 standard ones for a total of 7.
I just want to clarify, I second the motion.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me, have your consent and approvals. All right, so that's number 43. Number 44, 19 Eastbourne Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a 1-story addition on the north side and to create a front yard parking space. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, a staff report from transportation. Parking, right.
This matter was deferred, and since then, I guess the right-of-way is now okay with the new, you had to provide a site plan, and it was correct for that basis. You've now provided that. They seem to be okay with that now.
When it was deferred,
I guess.
sorry, it's Mark Mitchell, I'm the agent for the applicant. When it was deferred on June 26th, you people were being very nice to us and trying everything you could to approve it, but the issue was that transportation, because the way the application was worded, we were giving up a parking space in the back, therefore having no parking on the lot. They wanted to block the curb and the boulevard, so they couldn't use the existing driveway for parking. So we went back and had it re-examined, and now we're applying for the parking on the front yard. So therefore, transportation shouldn't have an issue.
So their recommendation that we have before us in our agenda has been superseded.
Correct, because now...
You don't have a surplus paving that you need to restore.
That's right.
You're going to use the existing, and if I recall correctly, you're putting a small addition on the side of the house that makes it impossible for you to drive along the side and to the back, right?
Exactly, 4 square meters. The garage will still be in the back, but they are avid cyclists and they'll be using it for their bicycles.
Okay.
And there's still room to get bicycles or a motorcycle in and out, but not a car.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
You okay with it? Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application. I don't think it needs to be subject to transportation because I believe the condition we have before us is now obsolete, so that it would be without conditions.
Seconder.
I'll second that.
All in favor? You have your approvals.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we go back to the 230 list for the held matters, 132 Harvard Street, number 34.
Hi, my name is Alex from the company.
Just a minute, sir.
Sure.
The purpose of the application is to alter the existing gas station by constructing a new canopy. And before us, we have material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from the assistant planner, and opposition from everybody that lives in the area.
Including the Harvard Village Residents
Yeah,
Association.
Harvard Bakery. Yeah. Okay, so you want to put a canopy, and it's going to be located 1.5 meters instead of 5 meters from the streets, and everybody's objecting.
Right, there is existing gas station, existing pumps.
Pardon?
There is existing gas station on the 132 Harbor Street, and existing pumps and aisle.
Right? You have
Yeah, 2 pumps.
You're
yeah.
not looking to add any additional?
No. There is 2 pumps, and we want to put umbrella above the existing pumps. We believe that in city of Toronto, so big city, to have this kind of 50, 60 years old gas station, it's a bit a shame. So we want to add umbrella for people.
Modernize it a little bit?
Absolutely, just modernize
Does it have lights?
the gas station. Pardon me?
Have lights?
Oh, canopies, yes. They will have light, but lights,
canopy.
it's
Yeah.
this way, not this way. Right? Lights, it's will look on the pumps. So what is objection for? Just we've been on site, and they said me, you want the canopy, we don't want. No explanation why. So I don't understand why.
How long have you been there on Harvard Street?
On a property?
Yeah.
We bought it 3 months ago.
Oh, 3 months?
3 months ago, we bought the
Many
property.
years. Been there for many, many years, correct?
Pardon me?
The gas station and the repair shop?
Maybe 60, 70 years, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We're going to hear from
Right.
opposition, and we're going to call you back.
Okay.
You indicated that there's opposition to the canopy, but nobody told you why. Well, I gather these are the people we have letters from, and they're very clear about why they're opposed to it.
No, just I say when I be.
So listen.
Yeah.
Listen carefully.
They have very specific reasons.
Good afternoon. My name is Rory Gus Sinclair. I'm the past chair of the Harvard Village Residents Association. I'm on the Planning and Development Committee of the HVRA, and I've been assigned this file, and I find it rather extraordinary. I was going to use the word ill-conceived, but now I'm going to change that to not conceived, because it doesn't look like much thought was given about what was going to happen here. I think it is a drawing full of hope. This is what we're talking about. Can you put the first one up? Yeah, this is a typical one. It may not be the same size as the one that's being proposed, but that's at Davenport and DuPont, and there's no residential area around it. They're 17 and a half feet high. There's LED lights underneath it, which are extremely bright. There's the LEDs up in there. You can't see it during the daylight, but anyway, take my word for it, they're very bright. We have a pretty good track record here at Committee of Adjustment for putting proponents in a room with the concerned citizens. We have a protocol for doing it, and we often get compromises before we even get here, and we often support them. The proponent didn't approach us, nor the councillor, so I approached them when the notice came out. I sent a collegial email saying, this is what we do. No answer. 48 hours later, I sent another one saying, well, seeing as silence seems to be what you want, we will now vigorously oppose this. I had an email in 5 minutes, and I agreed to meet Mr. Skuljan on the site on the Wednesday, the day after. Well, we talked about the canopy and the fact that it's rather big and large for this tiny little gas station, and plopped in the middle of a residential area. He seemed not interested in that. I asked, what's the business plan? What is this going to be? What are you going to do with the building? Well, we don't know. We haven't decided yet. What are the hours going to be? We haven't decided yet.
Is he operating the gas station now?
He wouldn't say. You'll have to ask him.
As far as you know, it's not.
Operating it now.
No, it's closed at the moment. The tenant had to leave precipitously, and he was a very popular guy, but that's not on the agenda here. It's been vacant since May.
Okay. Some neighborhood mechanic shop, and they have a couple.
Yeah.
Two.
He had 2 lifts, and he saved everybody's bacon many times. So let me be very clear. Mr. Killian doesn't have to talk to me. He doesn't have to talk to us if he doesn't want to. Absolutely right. But equally, we don't have to agree to his plan. And I would advise that it's always wise, especially in downtown communities where you have an active association, to talk to them. This does not seem to be of interest. So now let's look at the project. This is a remarkable way to get started. This was the original plan. And if you look on the left-hand side, there's a property line that goes down the side near the sidewalk. That is not correct. All my years, I was a general contractor for 40 years and been coming here for 25 years. I've never seen a property line so out of whack. So that was dimensioned. It had sides and 30 by 15 feet. It had an area. It showed the pumps. Now show the next one. This is the one we're dealing with now. So the property line, in fact, is coincident with both walls of the gas station. They go down the side on the east and on the west, and we have a reduced size canopy. It's still 30 square meters, or 29, but there's no dimensions, and there's no location of the gas pump. And so I, show the next slide, if you don't mind. What I did is I took
Perhaps you could go back to.
Go back to the, sure.
What's the canopy? Where's the canopy?
The canopy is the little dotted square. Can you show that?
Yeah, the squared one.
Okay, you see the dotted square?
That's
the canopy. And you want to turn to the previous slide?
Yes, go back.
It's the thing on an angle there that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the bigger one.
Yeah.
And it has to now fit within the property line of the gas station, of the service station. So it's smaller. It's now 30 square meters, which is still pretty big. But so now on to the slide after that, and after that one. So what I did was I took the gas stations from the first, or the gas pumps and the gas island from the first one, and I put it inside and centered it on the new canopy. And I scaled as best I could the distance between the island, the pump island, and the property line on the east, and I got 5.25 feet. The average car is between 5.5 feet and 6 feet in today's world, so he's going to have a problem going up on the east side of those pumps. And the way pumps have to work, you have to have cars going on both sides. That's just an anomaly that I saw. So, but the biggest problem, my friends, is, and I want you to show the next slide.
It's a photograph. This is a panoramic photograph. Can you push it to that side, please? Yeah, there we go. So we have the gas station, you have the pumps, and on the left-hand side is all residentials. They're about 60 feet from the gas station. The height of the service station is 14 and a half feet. This canopy will stand 3 feet above the roof line of that building. In addition,
What is that building on the right side? What is that?
that is a residence and it's mixed residential commercial. It's and there's people above. In addition,
So the canopy will be above the garage, you're saying?
3 feet above the garage.
Above the garage, so kind of to the second floor of the,
Yes.
more or less?
More or less. I'm about to tell you something even more important. Across the street, I went over and I measured the sills of the second-story windows. They're 13 feet from grade. So this item will be shining light, will be visible and shining into the windows of all those buildings along that side. And Mr. Chairman, you said something with respect to the HOCKEN issue earlier today, which I thought was a ringing declaration. Those houses were there first. It behooves this proponent to make whatever he's putting in there fit the community that he's doing this in. This canopy is suitable for the 401 or a big place out on Lawrence Avenue where you've got all this commercial buildings and so on, not plonking it down in the middle of a residential area. This is my last photo. This is looking south, and you can see the Harvard Bakery right across the street. That's residential on the top floor of those buildings, and the further down Major Street, this will be visible completely down Major Street. So I feel sorry for Mr. Skolyan. He's bought a property that is too small for what he wants to do. But that is the fact. And the thing to hang your hat on is the 1.5. It's not even close. It's not 4.8, it's not 4.5, it's not 4. It's 1.5.
5 meters is the requirement.
5 meter requirement. So I implore you and here these are neighbors who are across the street. 5 of the people of the 25 who sent in letters. I implore you to reject this one. Thank you so much.
Oh, just 1 minute, sir. I want to ask you a question. Did I see some photographs in here of other gas stations in close-by residential neighborhoods without canopies? Is that what you were?
Well, you can see this is typical. See the lights on this one that you can see up here?
Is that a different?
That's not a canopy. Those are lights that are much smaller. And they're,
Is that a different state?
oh, it's a way different thing.
Residential area?
Show the first photograph.
Yeah, there's some kind of.
This is the kind of thing they're talking about. That's the canopy.
Yeah.
Those lights that are existing there are suitable for that location, but not this thing.
And that has more than 2 pumps.
Oh, yeah, that's several, but I wanted to show you the style of it.
Right.
That has about 9 pumps.
Yeah, typically, it's in a larger
It's
piece of land.
it's
than a-
humongous. It's going to be this giant thing on a corner, a residential street.
So did you generally find that those stations that had canopies were larger and a larger piece of property, and those that didn't have canopies?
Had the kind of lights that we were talking. That's exactly right, sir.
Did you find any
I didn't find any.
with canopies that were similar
No.
to this?
They're all like this. I have photographs. I didn't bring them, but I have 5 photographs of small lots like this, and they're exactly like that kind of double lights.
Yeah, we have
Right.
some.
Yeah, I know there's.
Oh, yes, the neighbor did send them. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, remember one that was contentious years ago at the corner of Bathurst and Claxton?
Yeah.
North of St. Clair.
Yes, I know
That
it.
was it was also a local repair shop,
Yeah.
a mechanic, and they got rid of the mechanic shop. But that's different. That was that was on Bathurst Street.
It's on Bathurst.
There was some issues, but it got resolved.
Well,
It was, again, more than 2 big.
I know Claxton too, but the residents occur way up on an angle. This is shining across the street.
Yes.
I mean, it's horrifying.
But there's one on Vaughan Road, too, a small gas station.
Yeah, small.
I don't know whether it has a canopy or not.
That is typical of a small
That's
gas station.
commercial, too, the
We
one.
don't want we don't need a canopy to use that gas.
Yeah, for 2 pumps, it's,
Anyway.
the impact on the neighbors, I think, outweighs.
The impact.
Thank you.
Absolutely the impact.
For sure. Thank you, Mr. Sinclair.
Thank you very much. Am I done?
Anybody else want to speak, or were you speaking on behalf of everybody?
I was speaking on behalf of everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, Mr. Applicant, could you come back?
Yes, I heard exactly what they said, and for me, just not exactly understandable if whatever the gentleman show gas station or Lawrence, as we see there is two lights with brightly lights. So on this kind of canopy, whatever we propose is going to be the same lights, just under the canopy. So what is difference between two pole lights with light and canopy with light? I clearly don't understand. And it was precedent already in City of Toronto. You confirm they built few gas station, for example, one of 226 Vaughan Road, with two pumps and canopy up.
Is that the one I'm talking about on Vaughan?
Yeah,
Road?
right on Vaughan Road,
Which
2 years ago, Centec.
Which wood?
Centec.
Where?
Centec. Centec is this is name of gas station on Vaughan Road.
Oh, Centex, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is
that's at
exactly
Wychwood.
the same type of gas
Has
station.
a canopy?
Yeah, they built the canopy with the City of Toronto permission. Exactly the same two pumps, the same small canopy, two lights under the canopy in residential area.
Have enough space around it.
Oh, the same space. Absolutely.
It was
Very
5
identical.
meters from the...
Yeah, and also I built previously on 637 Vaughan Road, Ultramar gas station, and the same very small canopy. So what is the difference to have today two old pumps, no canopy? Yes?
You
Yes, please.
mentioned, I don't agree this is a small canopy, just to clarify, but your proposal isn't clear. From what you're saying, there are a couple of lights on the property now. They're lower than this canopy, a lot.
Right.
Two
No,
lights.
no question, yeah.
The canopy, I'm assuming, has lights on the underside, but it doesn't say. The canopy, I'm assuming, has lights all the way around the fascia, because that's how you identify who you are on these
Right,
canopies.
right.
So there's lights, in addition to lights down, and as indicated, protruding onto the neighboring properties, you've got a band of light all the way around the property as well. So I don't think it's fair to characterize what you've presented us with as not much different than two lights.
But this...
It's an illuminated structure.
All right, it's illuminated structure, no question, but these fascia lights, whatever you say, the signage cover the light, so you don't see so bright light. All of us.
It's a lit canopy. It's a lit canopy, and there's a lot more foot candles.
Yeah, so
than what you have now.
signage covering the light boxes on the canopy, and you don't see absolutely, you see only, like say, ESO, right? It doesn't bright so long. So under the canopy, the same lights as today light poles.
Yeah.
So what is the difference? I just don't...
Difference, there is a requirement under the bylaw to have a setback.
No, this I appreciate it completely. Yeah, this completely I appreciate it.
Buffer in terms
Right.
of light and impact from the size of any canopy, regardless. And this, in my view, doesn't meet that in any sort of way, so there's a difference.
So I don't know what to say more. We just wanted to modernize the very, very old gas station and to make it normal gas station.
I think that's the interesting point, and it's been mentioned before. It's been mentioned with regard to a number of applications today. This is a delightful little residential-related gas station that people could drop into, and as many of the people have said, in its current state, wasn't really a detriment to the community because it didn't project lights. The proposal you have before us is to erect an illuminated structure that's going to send light all over adjacent properties and is the sort of thing that's in keeping with highly traversed arterial roads. This isn't a highly traversed arterial road. What's there appears appropriate to what's, to the existing context. What you're proposing, and I'm giving my vote away, but what you're proposing is, in my view, completely out of context of the application.
This is a progress that coming up, and if we can stop the progress, we want just to put umbrella for people not to stay under snow and rain. That whatever just we wanted to do. Because today when people take gas, and they have in Toronto, we have a lot of rain and snow, and they stay under the snow and rain and keep filling their cars, I don't think it's very pleasant for the public that we try to prevent unpleasant to get gas.
What time are you going to be open till?
Oh, we discussed with Ronnie Sinclair, we said we're going to be open from 6 to 11. Not to have the bright, for me, I don't say it's so bright, but not to have the bright to come in to the neighbors during the night.
But most operations like this, even if you're only open for those hours, they don't turn the lights off when they close.
Pardon me,
Lights
sorry?
stay on.
No, absolutely not. You can turn the light, of course. Whatever he showed us as a gas station, it's nine pumps, so 18 cars can take gas all the same time. So to giant, big gas station, it's not, I think it's not fair to show this kind of gas station where we have only 2 pumps.
Yeah, because the repair function that was before you bought 3 months ago, I guess,
Right.
was the majority, the main use on the site, and then there was 2 pumps. It's not a
Right,
large.
right. So we propose the same 2 pumps. We don't have any changes. No changes. Just we want to put umbrella above to 2 existing pumps.
So which company are you going to get your gas
Esso.
from? Esso?
Esso. Yeah, it's approved by Esso.
Okay.
Anyway, and there were no further questions, Mr. Chair. I'm prepared to make a motion to refuse the application. I don't believe the one variance is minor. I believe the impact is too great. And the setback of 5 meters from a lot line abutting a street is there for a reason. And this isn't, as Mr. Sinclair, it says we're not just under it, we're 1.5 meters from the lot lines. And this is a neighborhood. It's not, as you said, a major thoroughfare or a major corner like Yonge and York Mills where there's a large station, and other ones at DuPont and Bathurst. It's a different situation. It is a neighborhood station.
Okay.
And I can assure it'll probably start off as a mechanic stop with ancillary use of the pumps. And I appreciate it is Canada. People want to stay dry, and when they're filling up their vehicles with gas.
That's what I think it should to be,
The
right?
impact on the neighborhood is just way too great. It's a much greater illumination than 2 small lights that you would otherwise have.
The same 2 lights.
No.
Okay.
I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. All in favor? I'm voting against it because I don't think the impact is going to be anything like the neighbors say. It's not going to be the same kind of sign that's in a big station with 18 pumps or 9 pumps.
Okay, let's move
That's
on.
on the corner on a busy street. It's going to be more like the one on Vaughan Road, which is in a residential area. All right, thank you, sir. I'm sorry, your application's refused. Sir, you can file and get notice of the decision, and you can appeal.
Yeah, and neighbors, make sure you fill out the white decision request cards in the event of an appeal. Include your email address, as TLAB sends out their notices via email. So please make sure you fill out the cards in the event of an appeal.
Number 37, 211 Bane Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 3-story detached house by constructing a rear 1-story addition. We have before us material submitted by the applicant. We have support from 213 and 221 Bane. We have opposition from 200 and 194 Bane, and a 13 signature petition in opposition.
I have some opposition here. I'd like-
Where is your opposition, sir?
If you wanna
Would
come and sit up here.
forward, sit up here? Your name, sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Jackwitz. I'm representing the homeowners of 211 Bane. And we are here requesting two variances for FSI and side yard setback. Now, we are aware that we have opposition. We actually did meet in the back, and we had some conversations, and I think we've come to a mutual agreement that they can speak to as well. The biggest concern was the impact that this would have to 209 Bane, is that correct? And after further discussion and really showing exactly what it is that we're going to be doing, I think that impact has been mitigated. One of the challenges, again, what's circulated to community members is not really clear, and it speaks to an addition, and it doesn't really speak to the extent or the impact of that addition, so it's rather confusing. What we are building is a solarium. It has a glass structure that's sunken down from the property. Actually, we can show some images if you guys like. Alex, can we show the image?
Can I clarify, the discussion you had?
Yes.
Was one of clarification, and based on the clarification, there isn't an objection, or are you making changes?
Well, we are making one adjustment just to the numbers, which we have those numbers for you.
Tell us what those are first.
So the original.
The variances?
That affects the side yard setback. So what we're looking for is this property was built, so the original house had a 0-meter setback. So it was built to the property lines. The new home that was erected in 2010, I believe, followed that same footprint. So we were looking to extend the solarium on the same footprint, essentially the same lot lines. So now on the, let me just get my northeast and west. So on the east side, we would still like to maintain a 0-meter setback. That is the neighboring property that is in favor of this proposal. On the west side, we would like to propose a 0.15-meter setback. So that would bring us into the inside line of the fence, and the fence would not be impacted to 209 Bane.
All right, thank you.
Does that, can I get
So the rear one-story will be located 0 meters from the east side lot line and 0.015 from the west side lot line.
Correct.
But the 0-meter setback will still apply to the existing house. If
Yeah,
we're not careful how this gets worded, we're going to end up with you being legally, well, maybe
Hopefully not.
unlawful, yeah.
Yeah, the existing house was approved with those 0-meter setbacks. That's staying as it is. We would just like to extend.
Well,
Thank you.
Would it be good to tie it to the plans, and
I
that'll
think so.
show that the one, you're only pulling it in on the
Correct.
solarium on the west side, but otherwise, the house, Mr. Nipfeld is very right to point out, you're still at 0, you can't move that.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let us hear from, we just want to hear from the neighbor. See, do you confirm that agreement?
Yes, sorry, my name is Judy Kuntz. I live at 209 Bane, and we had a discussion out there, and if they agree to leave the fence and step back enough to build their solarium inside, on their side of the fence, I'm okay with that. So,
Okay.
that's my backyard, yeah. And in my concern of this, what I have to say is the information that I get from the city made it very unclear exactly what this was. And unfortunately, and I'm going to blame my neighbor for this, he did not talk to me about what his intentions were, which would have put me at ease a lot earlier. Well, because it's also sunken down, so it's not going to impact me the way I felt a one-story addition was going to impact me. I still have great concern about a beautiful tree, actually, that I could show you a picture of, and the water, the ground, what's that term? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with all these terms that you're speaking of, but of the water getting into the root system of this tree. Sorry, I'm speaking more from my heart. Because, you've already got basically that picture. So one of my concerns was the groundwater for the tree. That's my yard. Yes, which I have taken very good care of. Yeah, it's like 3 stories high. It's an incredible tree, but also agreed that they're going to put the eaves trough draining down on the side, on their side, of course, but sort of more towards my tree, which will hopefully,
Is it concerned that the roots are going to be affected
Yeah.
by excavating for the...
they're not, they're only doing pillars, so, yeah, it's more of the, what do you call it, the soft? Yeah, and my backyard is just mostly flagstones, some flower beds on the sides, so that the tree gets water. So that was those were my concerns, but I think I'm less concerned now with it, and so I'm willing to agree to this. It's about 13 feet from the end of their extension. It's not far, nothing's big in this neighborhood.
And they're not really, it doesn't sound as though they're going to affect the water table very much because you're using pile-on.
Yes, yeah. Well, and if they put eaves trough down where the water from that solarium goes into the ground, I think it'll be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, my concerns, and...
Thank you very much. I don't think we need to hear from you, sir. Right, so unless anybody has a question, or do we have a motion?
Well, I have a concern. We don't have a drawing to refer to. So we have to work, what we need you to do is to give us, you're proposing an amended application, because you're asking us for something other than what you originally asked for. So could we work on what that wording needs to be?
I think the wording's clear in
If I could just point to the site plan, so
because it talks about the minimum required side lot line setback, et cetera, not exceeding 17 meters.
Yes, he is.
for the 17 meters is for where? Because we have FSI as a variance, floor space index, we're requesting 0.88.
But you're asking for, if I heard you correctly, you're asking for a 0-meter setback on the east side and a 0.15 meter setback on the west side of the proposed one-story addition.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, so correct. So over here,
Sorry, Michael.
right here, if you can look on the overhead.
Can you tie it to that plan, Carl?
Yeah, so this is the 0-meter setback that we're requesting on the east side.
Yeah.
And then over on this side here is where we'd like the 0.15, which brings us to the inside line of that fence that's currently there. So the only adjustment that happens.
0 to 0.
Oh, yeah.
So, and another suggestion I would have, perhaps we should call it by constructing a rear one-story solarium addition, which is what we've been told it is, and that's why Ms. Kuntz was concerned, because you thought it was just a fulsome addition with bricks and windows and all of that stuff. And it does make reference to it's the only one-story addition. Obviously, you're not going to move your whole house off the lot line, but you're going to 1.15. Carl, do you think we can?
It's 0.15.
Yes, on the east side.
Yeah.
For the rear one-story solarium addition. I think it's important, with your permission,
And,
to protect Ms. Kunst.
By all means, and these are conversations that we have with planning departments and building departments in different municipalities, that there should be a different classification for structures like this.
Yeah.
But that's a long conversation.
Yeah, I guess there's no difference between but I think if we change the purpose, that gives them the protection. I don't know if we have to specify it's going to be on piers and not on there's going to be no excavation or no foundation. I don't know if we have to get into that detail. The minutes perhaps will reflect that's what we're talking about.
We have actually a document that speaks to our presentation, which we had prepared, but since we came to a resolution, I don't know if I need to get into the details, but that's something that we can submit to Jason for reference, and that could be tied to the Committee of Adjustment.
So your new request to us is that the rear one-story solarium addition will be located 0 meters from the east side. We'll have a 0-meter east side setback and a 0.15 meter west side setback.
0.15. Yeah. Correct.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, on that basis, I recommend approval of the application.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? You have approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's what he asked us for. I would condition and
So solarium goes in the purpose and it goes in the second variance.
The purpose as well.
Yeah.
And then it's the new variance.
Yes.
For Michael's right, we should call it solarium
Okay.
glass. And that the setback is 0 meters from the east side and 0.15.
I missed it from the putting solarium in the purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Number 40, 43 Westview Boulevard. Oh, Kenny, please, here. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay. Is your opposition here?
They have left. We clarified some questions. They just had questions about the proposed addition. And once I answered those questions for them, they were satisfied.
All right.
And they have no opposition.
All right, so let me introduce it. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a second-story addition with a second-story deck above the existing garage. We have material from the applicant and support from One Gardens Crescent. Your name, sir?
My name is Philip Cho, and I'm the homeowner.
Right. Okay, so do we need a presentation, or is this?
I don't know. I'm open to questions if you'd like. I can go through some of the variances that are being requested. But
Let me just hear from my panel members
I
and
have
see if
one
they have any
question.
questions.
This area is predominantly bungalows, or if not all bungalows.
It is.
Proposing the first second-story addition. What?
I'm sorry. Are you asking me if it's the first?
I believe I'm right that the area is almost all bungalows. Am I?
It is, but there's many second-story additions going up now.
But not in the immediate vicinity, not unless I'm wrong.
In the immediate vicinity, yes, there is.
Okay, then I'm wrong. So perhaps you can tell us where the second-story additions have occurred, because that's relevant.
Yes, One Gardens is the house that is immediately to the left of my property, north of my property. I'm a corner lot, so it's a pie-shaped. So the letter of support came from One Gardens Crescent, which is the One Gardens, which is right next door. Right. No, it's right beside my house. So if you look at the site plan, for example, there's this existing one-story brick dwelling number 1. That's the neighbor who supported my application who wrote in. No, that's a bungalow, but right beside her is a 2-story addition, which is 1 yard over from my house. And then on the back of my lot, the backyards, there's at least 1 or 2 2-story new constructions there. That's Joneth Avenue, which is on the other side of my property. So my backyard abuts onto other houses that have 2-story additions as well.
So the property immediately to the east has 2 stories, and then it goes to 1 story, correct?
Not immediately. So everything you might say is 1 or 2 houses over from my house would have 2-story additions already.
And then they would turn to bungalows.
Yes. So on Westview itself, my house is sort of alone on this little point. And on the opposite side of me are a series of bungalows. A few houses on that side, a few houses down from me, north of me on that side, on Westview, on the corner of Westview and Gardens, sort of kitty corner to me. That's a 2-story addition, a former grow up, which was renovated into a 2-story large home.
So the bungalows that are predominant are across the road from you?
Yeah, I mean, they're scattered throughout the neighborhood.
An area that's quite substantial, that's across the road from you?
Yes, and there's a whole row of bungalows across the street from me, and some of them have started going up, further north of where I live. But yeah, generally, immediately across the street from me, none of them have renovated yet. They're all sort of still in their original 1-story condition.
Yeah, and I guess your side yards are because the function of the shape of your lot and the building sort of touches.
Yeah.
And the garage, the deck over the garage, that's like, I guess it's the full garage?
No, so that was modified, and I don't know if you have the updated drawings, but that was modified and reduced to just a smaller footprint that would be 12 square meters. And I think the allowance is 4 meters.
Right.
4 square meters. So it's
It was originally more than 12 meters.
it was the original design was for over the whole garage, but now it's just a small, modest deck on top of the garage. And that was one of the things the neighbor, because one of the opposition parties that came is the neighbor on that side.
Right.
His yard faces my garage, and he was happy with the size of the garage after it was revised. Sorry,
How
the
do you
deck.
get on the deck?
I'm sorry?
How do you get out on the deck?
So there will be stairs. The stairs to the second story will come from that side.
I see.
And so there'll be a door created on that side there.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
What's up? Stairway, see? Decks on the far.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Do we,
If it's of any interest to the committee, I can provide verbally at least other neighbors that have provided support.
I think we're okay. Do we have a motion?
I don't think there's any conditions. I'm prepared to move approval of the application. I believe it meets the 4 tests. It's modest and fits in, and you seem to have neighborhood support. So move approval.
Seconder.
I'll second it. I'm just wondering about the deck. I guess the fact that it's the size, like there's no way for it to go over the whole garage given it's scaled back, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's a deck. The 4 meters typically for like front balconies or rear balconies. This is actually a deck.
Well, I know it's raised off the garage.
Right.
So that's where.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry. The 12 meters reflects the garage, the scaled back version of the deck that's on the plans.
12 square meters.
Yes, but that reflects the scaled back version.
Yes, yes.
Number 41, 252 Monarch Park Avenue. Purpose of this application is to obtain consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots. We have before us materials submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from planning, staff reports from engineering and urban forestry, and opposition from 2 neighbors. Well,
letters.
We have letters of opposition from 2 neighbors. Your name, sir?
My name is Marin Zabzuni. I'm the agent for 252 Monarch Park Avenue. And we're proposing to lot severance and propose 2 3-story detached dwellings. We spoke with the concerning neighbors. It wasn't concerns with the variances. It was more towards the construction in terms of excavating and if there would be any potential damage to their home during construction. There was just concern about that, and they can attest to that.
When you say, you're talking about these neighbors?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have anything to do with construction.
Yeah.
So we're only concerned about the severance and the variances.
Yeah, subject to which these gentlemen have to say, the 2 letters we have on file relate, as you said, clearly to construction, excavation, safety, those issues that we're not concerned with. So why don't we hear from, see if they have the same concerns or any other concerns. I have a question about, like, when you get a severance, in terms of looking at your variances, is 1.07 times the area lot. To me, when you have a lot, you come for a variance, it's sort of a, it's different when you have a severance and you create a substandard lot and then you push the envelope on the house. So can you let us know how 1.7 times coverage lot, whereas 0.75 is permitted, it's within the area?
Well, now with the severed lots, those numbers amplify because the lot is smaller. And what we did was
small lot, small house.
Exactly.
You're getting the privilege of creating these small lots.
Yes.
So I'd like to know. I see there's some of the. It's Monarch Park is a very small little area there. What are the other front lot frontages on the FSIs of those lots along Monarch Park between Springdale and Milverton? there's only a small grouping of houses, as well as the ones further on along Monarch Park and across the street. So my question is, you're creating these smaller lots, are those lots that they fit in? Typically, planning used to give us a lot study when we'd have a severance, but planning has not weighed in here to any great extent. So I just would like you to touch on your presentation, just to let us know, answer the question, is 1.07 times a lot, or 204 square meters per house on 3 stories, is that compatible with the neighborhood?
Absolutely. So I believe it is, and we work closely with city planning. Even our neighbors are about 0.97, which is very close, but we have much better side yard setbacks, and we comply with building length. So our length is a little bit deeper than our neighbors of 254, A and B.
Yeah, that was my question. What
But
if
we
they
comply
were
still with
very
length.
similar? Are you
Yes.
actually larger than those two on next door?
Well, on the numbers, on GFA, on the old bylaw, especially because the unexcavated area of the, the excavated area of the porch counts as more. So it's very, very similar in terms of FSI numbers, because they're at 0.97. But our building length, it complies, although it's a bit deeper, we have better side yard setbacks. So in terms of massing, especially when there's a narrow lot, massing from streetscape, you won't see the building length, but you'll appreciate the better side yard setbacks, which reduces the impact from the streetscape quite significantly.
Your 2 houses are remarkably similar to the 2 houses immediately to the north.
They're both modern. However, we're trying to produce more clean lines and less busy. And we've done a 3D rendering of it too, which I can put up if you'd like to see as a comparison. And then
Was that also a severance and new
Yes.
builds?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Did it go through to the committee? Was it appealed to TEY?
Yeah, I don't, usually they give us a copy of the decision. We don't.
I believe it went to OMB and got
Do
approved
we have
there.
a copy of the
But
decision on that property?
it was,
Well, he's got the information right here. Went to
Okay.
the OMB.
Okay, went to the OMB.
2015.
Actually, the OMB at the time.
4 years
Right.
ago.
And it was denied by the committee adjustment.
So we work with planning to make sure that it's in keeping within those variances, but our height is less by a little bit as well.
Those
compared to the
neighbors haven't objected, they're not.
No, they have no concerns, and even these neighbors have no concerns in terms of the variances. And I believe it fits the area in terms of streetscape.
You told us you're a little higher on GFA, a little lower than the houses next door, and you have this 3D rendering which shows you feel it's an improvement to that one that was done 4 years ago. So maybe let's hear for these gentlemen, I don't know where they live and what their concern, if it's planning or construction related. And you have a chance to respond.
Hi, my name's Rene Bernardo, and this is my father, Rene Bernardo as well. We live in that house with the green awning on 250 Monarch Park Avenue, and we came here just with, as the architect said, about safety concerns with the excavation. And we were looking at the variances. It wasn't just we came here for.
You're okay with the variance?
We were okay with the variances, and it was just we were just talking about concrete shoring with our house because it's almost 100 years old, and we just wanted to make it known to the committee that we do have safety concerns, but they've reassured us that when their plans come through, that it will be taken care of. So.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think we need to hear from you any further.
On another note, small note, just the existing 2 homes on the neighbors, they're virtually identical with maybe a slight differentiation on the brick. Like we try to avoid that and make it seem as if 2 houses were built. The geometry is quite different on both houses, and we're trying to do something that improves the area, not just 2 identical homes as if it's a subdivision.
Yeah, I think it's nice that you've made them a little bit different.
Exactly. I think that's very important for the streetscape, so I just want to add that note.
Unfortunately, we have no control over it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So how do these compare in terms of the height of the neighboring houses? I recall when I looked at these.
It's less.
No, I'm not just talking about the 2 that the OMB approved, I'm talking about the context of all of the neighboring houses.
Right.
From my recollection, it seemed like these were a lot larger,
Only,
bulkier, and yes, I was kind of surprised to see the 2
Yeah.
existing ones. So can you speak to that issue in terms
Absolutely.
of how they fit?
The height, it's a flat roof height, so we lowered it as much as possible. Second floor is 8 feet. The garage door is 7 feet. Pretty much, we lowered it where we can as a bare minimum. Even to the neighbor on the existing home to the left, I believe they may be slightly higher than us. So in that respect,
If I might, though, that's misleading. We had that brought before us today.
Right.
The same issue. The peak might be higher, but in fact, it's less building mass. I share
Yes.
the concern that my colleague has, that in this area, the two existing new builds are, in my view, a bit out of step with the rest of the neighborhood. The rest of the neighborhood does look like the house immediately to the south or lower. And when you go to a flat roof, notwithstanding the fact that the dimensions might be the same, but the flat roof, it's a bulkier state, which comes to Mr. Clark's point, which I completely agree with. When you come before the committee and you ask for a consent to produce a narrow lot, if you can make it work, fine, but if the next thing is, well, but then we need lots of variances to build the house, then in fact, maybe the consent is wrong. So you have me questioning the consent. I would be inclined to think that the consent here is reasonable, providing there's a unique approach to creating a house that fits into the community. But you come forward and say, and it's not you, I realize it's not just you, but you come forward and say, well, I now can't fit on what I want to build on this little lot that you just created. Well, then maybe we shouldn't have created the lot.
right, so the first floor is above the garage height too, which means the basement, part of the basement counts as the FSI, just due to where the basement slab and the established grade is measured, which raises the numbers.
As it should, though. I mean, frankly, this is an integral garage, and in terms of its visual impact on the community, it has the impact of the entire basement level, first level, and second level. It's a 3-story house visually.
It's a 3-story, but the porch, for example, is very common with a lot of the height, with a lot of the streetscape. So even visually, other than the garage, it's not quite as evident as a 3-story because there's more steps inside the house. The first floor being higher inside, you don't see that outside. So we try to reduce that impact as much as we can, and the ceiling heights are quite modest in that respect.
You said 8, your internal ceiling on the second floor is 8 feet?
Yeah.
And your basement, I guess you're totally out of the ground there, I guess. What's your main floor ceiling height?
Main floor ceiling height? One moment.
On the other hand, we have the houses next to you, so it fits in on one side, but that's sort of an anomaly that went to the board. If that wasn't there, I think we'd be looking at this in an entirely different light. If
The owner also spoke with neighbors.
They didn't come before you, right?
Right. I understand that. And the owners also spoke with neighbors just to see if there's any objection or any concerns. So we were looking at both from a planning perspective, where we did work with planning very closely, and looking into the neighborhood. So we tried to be mindful, and it's been about a year process in this application. The first floor height is 9 feet clear.
Okay. Thank you.
So those were reduced after speaking with planning and
Yes.
reducing the overall.
We made changes for
Anyway, so
to gain their support. Yeah.
basically, we have only construction-related concerns. The neighborhood seems to, for whatever reason, maybe because of those two that are already there, are in support of this application. You've heard what me and Mr. Nipfel have had to say. I think if you hadn't had those two preceding you 4 years ago, we'd be looking at this entirely different, and maybe you'd be the one going to TLAB. But given that they're already there and that sort of fits in with that, my motion would be to approve the application. First the consent and then the variance applications. I don't know if my colleagues agree.
Seconder?
You can't create it. You have to stay quiet.
All right, we have another motion.
I would move that the consent application and the variances be rejected. And my reasoning is picking up on what Mr. Clark just said. The fact that there has been a development to the north, which I think is an anomaly, is the only reason that I could find to justify these. I have nothing wrong with the design of your buildings. They're fine. I just don't think they're in the right place. I think what you're asking us to do is to create narrow lots that require this kind of a solution, and I don't think that's the appropriate solution to this particular area. I think there's a more unique response to context is needed here. My motion is to reject the applications.
And I'm going to second the motion. That was the first thing that struck me was that these houses, in my view, the proposed homes don't fit within the character of the area. Notwithstanding two houses, there are other houses surrounding it, and I felt that it didn't, wasn't compatible, didn't fit in. So I'm going to second the motion for refusal.
Can I just add a quick comment to that?
Committee.
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Opposed.
All opposed? I'm abstaining. So your application is refused.
Thank you.
Oh, good, I need a washroom break.
We're done. Done.
You have to sign a few other decisions from last time, Donald. For some reason, you missed them.
I missed them?
Yeah.